It's 8 p.m. here in the UK. It's Sunday, the 19th of July. Welcome to the Pro Synth Network Live show, episode 16. And we have a full house today. So let's not beat around the bush and let's go round. First of all, let's go to our special guest this week, Mr. Simon Alexander. How are you, my friend?
Very good. Thank you very much. Nice to be back. Thank you for having me.
Infinite Synth Cave. Sorry, I had to do that. There'll be lots of that, I think, tonight. So what's
You've been waiting to do that all.
It's the only reason we got the one, mate. Seriously, we're like really desperate. We didn't know it. So what's new in your world?
Well, I'll bend down here. I've got one of these, which is new. My Clark Technic SD320, which is the clone of the Roland STD. I think it's the STD 320. Yeah, I've been playing with that. I know we're going to talk about it, but I've also had a loan of the C15 non-linear. Actually, hardware-wise, not a great deal's been happening because I'm still waiting for George Hearn to eventually come out with the Super 6. So I've been looking at one of those, but I don't know what's... bit of software... more native instrument stuff. Yeah, I've been busy doing a bit of music, so trying to keep myself out of trouble. Yeah,
good. Well, great to have you here as always. And just as I do that, I lock up my screen. So there we go. Let's move across the ocean to a place there Simon frequently visits as part of his day job. Let's go to Cryss over there in California. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. Yeah, nothing much new happening around here. No new gear, but I've been working on my channel and shooting demo videos for sound sets. So boring, very boring. I hate videoing.
It's got to be done.
Yeah, got to be done. So I'm really looking forward to getting back to just making some music.
Cool, excellent stuff. Well, we'll talk a little bit later on about other things that we've all got planned. And let's go to Ben up in the north of England. How are you, sir?
I'll do.
How's things with you? Been busy?
Yeah, I've been, this weekend I've been working in here trying to get everything wired up. And I think I'm at the stage now where I didn't try little bits. I just wired it all up in the home, so it's all going to be okay. So I haven't tried any of it yet, but everything's wired up, and I'm going to hopefully make some music this week.
It's a nice little stand I see you've got there for the S6000 panel.
Oh, yeah, that it comes out. That it's like
look at that! It's on a boom arm.
You know what I mean?
Look at that. Inspirational.
I've had that ages. I couldn't think of anything to do with it, but yeah, because this is a good idea as well. These like little that's good for that. Yeah. You can put the keyboard underneath it as well and pretend you've got like some like really weird retro computer.
It's a shame they didn't put like a Visa set of screws on, like sockets on the back of that panel that you could then attach it to something and have it, also. But I guess we didn't have Visa television mounting sockets back then. But anyway, no, well done. That looks really good. Excellent stuff.
Yeah, I'm quite happy.
Good. So it's another week. We've got another bunch of topics to discuss. We might as well kick off with the one that Simon mentioned. And do you know, this one really kind of passed me by. So let me just... this is the lack of... We were gassing so much before we came on air that I forgot to set up my topics screen. But there you go. There we go. All sorted now. So this is the non-linear Labs C15, which is this rather impressive looking piece of equipment that's very wooden, lots of wood and lots of buttons and a singular central knob in the middle, two very long ribbons above the keyboard there, and it, when you listen to this thing, it sounds incredible. It sounds very capable of lots of different sounds and styles. But it has caused a little bit of a rumpus amongst the community because it lacks MIDI, which is an interesting omission, given that literally everything has MIDI and this doesn't. But Simon, you said you've had a loan of this, so we might as well start off with you because you know what you're talking about. What's your opinion on the C15?
It's beautiful in construction. I mean, the wood is flawless. The design is flawless. That back bit, actually, you can use the synth without that. Take that completely off. It sits on two really well-made brackets. You're right, it's not MIDI, but what it is, it's wireless. It generates its own wireless network, so you can hook it up to a PC or a tablet, and you can edit it and send patches to it in real time. There's very little latency when you control it. The relevance of that being is that Stefan Schmidt, the designer of it, they're working on the software, and you will be able to USB it to MIDI chain, so you can get around the MIDI side of it.
Okay.
The software itself is the editing side of it. If you really need the software side of it, I don't know really. It's good. The librarian side of it, though, is just impossible to use. So while it's fantastic in design in lots of areas, they've still got a lot of work to do with it rather. Sound-wise, it's not for everyone. It wasn't for me. The biggest disappointment with it was I had this thing for about 3 or 4 days, and I was desperately trying to get this thing to go, wow, bite me, and it just didn't happen. And it ain't cheap, Rob. It's 443 euros. When you get it, it's flight cased, it's pedals, it's everything. And it's a good flight case. It's ready to go. There's about 4,500 sounds, but 4.5 grand euros.
Is this the one that also is a bit like high-end cars that they'll book a training session with you? Is that? I can't remember. It's this synth or another one.
Yes, it is. Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, that's if you want to go over to Germany, and there is an open invite to do that. Of course, with lockdown, it just wasn't possible. So they'll do a video chat with you, but the tutorial, you really, it's a synth with buttons and oscillators, although they're digital. And when they do updates, hardware updates to it, the actual paneling where you've got the buttons, the knobs and the lettering, they're magnetic. So they send you over a new panel. They will move buttons around with different labels and just send you over a magnetic panel.
Wow.
Acoustically, I mean, it does some very good emulations and there are sounds in it that are stunning, but nothing you couldn't do with stuff out there for a lot less money. So I mean, if you're mega rich and you want something to play with that really doesn't matter, if you've got spare 4,500 euros to spend, then go for it. But you said
that the editing panel can be removed. So does that mean that you can remove that and then just use the synth, the keyboard part on its own with all the presets in? So set it up for a gig and then just take that bit out instead.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, if you look at it, you've got there's 2 LCD panels. There's one at the top on and then there's actually one at the bottom. Yeah. So you don't have to have that it doesn't do. It doesn't do like a Mini Moog or a Pro 3. It's not adjustable. It's got prefixed angled slots. So there are arms on the back of that, the top panel, and it's connected with a proper sort of SCSI type ribbon cable.
Right.
Everything about it is beautifully made. It really is 10 out of 10 for design. You got 3 choices of wood. But yeah, you know, I say again, for $4,000, you've probably got something that could do 80% of what that does, maybe even more, for half the price.
Yeah. No,
and bearing in mind, you know, what else is out there at $4,000-ish, really? I don't know. I mean, you're knocking on sort of second-hand Moog 1 type of prices, and I know what I'd rather go for. I'm it's nice, but it wasn't for me. There was you know, the biggest thing about it was I really did try to like it. I had it for a long weekend, and there was just no wow factor. It was not something that I could in time get used to and fall in love with. So
it's a very kind of unique and powerful synth engine. They call it the Phase 22 synthesis. It's 2 oscillators, sine wave phase mod, frequency randomization, 2 shapers, ring modulator, comb filter, state variable filter, lots of effects, lots of envelopes. You know, it seems, you know, incredibly well specified in the engine department, and for, you know, the demos that I've heard, I mean, it does sound very nice, but I think, I mean, I've only heard demos, but nothing really made me go, whoa, that's new, that's different.
No.
But
I mean, I think the paramount thing about it is you're right, it is over engineered. I mean, without any question at all, Stefan Smith is a very, very clever guy. He's got a you know, phenomenal track record. He was one of the founders of Native Instruments, and he spent a lot of time and put a lot of money into this. I think he sold about 100 units, he told me.
Okay.
But yeah, I agree with the sentiments that you just said. It just there was no wow factor to it. You know, for example, when I heard the Moog 1, I thought, you know, that's wow, big, you know. And I'll give a little plug to the guys that are doing sounding. Jamie's just done, Geosynth has just done some more sounds for it, and they sound, I think, Cryss, you're nodding your head there. Yeah, they are good. I mean, he's done some incredible work on it. But those type of sounds I have not heard on and I don't think there's going to be too many people that are going to venture out, get one of those because of the price, and do patches for it. No. Out of the 4,000 patches that are with it, and I went through, obviously not all of them, a lot of them were very similar, very good at bells and, you know, fluty type sounds, but no sort of big sort of atmospheric-y sort of room filling sound. And those are the type of sounds that I really like, and it just didn't have any.
Yeah. So let's go to the other guys. Anybody got an opinion on this?
Go for it, Ben.
Well, I was just looking through the chat room, and somebody mentioned that it's essentially Native Instruments' Contour. I don't know. I don't know about
that. I'd heard it was based, or, you know, the engine, you know, the sound engine was based on the technology that he created there at NI. So
yeah.
So it's probably.
I was really impressed with it when I first saw it. I thought, wow, this looks really good. But then once I realised it didn't have MIDI on it, it just seemed like a really strange decision. And I invited Stefan to join the group, and he did. He did join, and I asked him that question, you know, on there, and he said it's intended to be a performance instrument. It's a player's thing, and I don't know. He was trying to say something about the expression that's in it, and that wouldn't transfer well over MIDI. He was considering putting MIDI 2 on it. I don't know.
From what I understand, it's the what's the word I'm looking for? The amount of data. It's very accurate, and it's just MIDI just would not keep up with it, or something like that. It was, you know,
it's along those lines, yeah. Maybe, but it's still like a basic version of it.
Yeah, but if you think about it, he's saying it's a performance instrument, and this was kind of how I was trying to maybe justify it, to myself. Not that I'm going to get one of these, but if you think about, you go out and buy a piano or a Wurlitzer or a Rhodes or a CP70 or something that is considered a really top unique kind of instrument. They don't have MIDI on them. It got me thinking, actually, why should everything have MIDI? Why can't pure players, people with the skills and the chops, actually just have an instrument? They don't have to connect to anything. They just want to play it. I mean, not that it makes any difference if they have it or not, but because they don't have to use it. But if the engine and the synthesizer itself is too powerful for MIDI, then fair enough. But yeah, it's an odd choice, but it seems to be what lots of people are focusing. It's what I was focusing on, and then I kind of thought,
Yeah.
I
Has it got USB on it?
No, it's got nothing.
It's Wi-Fi, isn't it?
Yeah, it creates this Wi-Fi, and then you have to use your own PC or a tablet with the USB. But you'd think, actually, he's saying it's a performance instrument, and again, it's very good at acoustic sounds and that. With MPE coming out, it would probably suit that down to earth. So I agree with you. It is a little bit of an odd one, and I think he's been, that question's been asked multiple times to him why he hasn't put MIDI on it.
Yeah.
Well, it seems to me, this kind of brings up a kind of a meta issue, and we see where the ends of the spectrum are, where on one side you see companies, the bigger companies. A lot of times this happens with the Japanese synth makers, where it seems designed by committee, and it's just kind of a random collection of features, and you're kind of left wondering why they didn't make it more intuitive, and it's just, why does it do this? Why is this in a menu and not a knob? That kind of thing. And then all the way on the other side of the spectrum, you have, basically solo designers. I'm sure obviously there's people that are collaborating with him, but he's the one that's directing the vision. And when you get so far on that side and it becomes his vision, then you get stuff that, every single comment I've seen on this thing has been like, why is there no MIDI? Why is there no USB? Like really basic, design aspects, but he's so singularly focused on his vision of that. And sometimes we see that works out, I think, a bit better where, for the most part, like say George Hearn's UDO, that's a really interesting synthesizer. I don't like, personally, I don't care that it doesn't have a screen on there. Or sorry, I said that too ambiguously. I care that it doesn't have a screen on there. That's a major disappointment to me, that you can't just even name patches. And so maybe that's where he goes a little bit farther. But one of the good aspects of what George has done is that he's really focused the UDO into here is this instrument. I have a vision for it. We're not going to get caught up on all these rabbit holes. But most of the time, it's like we see these companies kind of going in one of these two directions, and it's really hard to get that center band where everything is there's enough input from other people that you're not leaving MIDI off of the synthesizer, and yet it's focused so that you're getting the features that this particular synth should have and none of the features it shouldn't have.
Bottom line is, this is his design, it's his company, he thinks this is a great synth, he wants it to do what he wants it to do, and he doesn't want MIDI on there because of a number of reasons. And maybe I didn't explain it as eloquently as he did in an article I read when somebody said to him, it hasn't got MIDI, why? And he explained that it was the granularity of the engine and the features just isn't supported by MIDI 1. And he said he said he was considering MIDI 2 and MPE and all that kind of stuff, but that's very new, and he's clearly been working on this for a while. And bottom line is, $4,500. If you want one, you're going to buy one. If you don't want it, you're not going to buy it. That's how you dictate how successful these things are with the customer's wallet. And if he's built 100, if he's set out to build 100 and sell 100, well, he's done that, and he's made just short, he's turned over just under $500,000. So it's what I'm saying. Did I get my maths right there? Yeah, something like that. Anyway, this could be their boutique instrument, and then he says, okay, well, I can do a cut down version that's only going to cost $1,500, and we'll give that MIDI, or we've developed, or MIDI 2 does work with it. So I don't know. I
think for as a buyer, it doesn't have the things that I would want in it, so I'm going to pass. I think something like a Hydra synth, a third of the price is going to do even more than that does. And I'd be concerned about, because he's so singularly focused, that even if the community of owners really wanted some feature, he would probably ignore it. And so, that can, again, that singular focus can be somewhat of a benefit and a detriment to a project like this. But as you said, this could be just his very personal, this is my synthesizer, and if you want to buy it, you can buy it, and I don't care if you don't want to buy it. That's
I think
fine,
the bottom line is, if he says, this guy says, we didn't put MIDI in for these reasons, I'm not going to argue with this guy based on his track record and his history and his success. He knows what he's talking about, and who the am I to question that? Who are any of us to question that? He's made the choice, that's that, deal with it. But Native VS in the chat room has just reminded me of this rather interesting acquisition scheme that they've put on, because you don't have to just go and buy this.
No, I was going to mention that. Sorry to interrupt, Rob. It is very, very good. Yeah.
I looked at that, I thought, well, actually now I could see a path to me, if I wanted one. The price is now no longer an issue, because the purchase price is €4,000 plus VAT. Oh, that's including VAT. Sorry, and they're offering a tailor-made flight case for $300, and other bits and bobs. And then they have this buyback plan. So here's the first thing: if you purchase it directly, you'll benefit from the buyback plan for those who decide to return their C15 some time after having purchased it. The buyback price is calculated by subtracting 2% of the purchase price per month. So this is not like a time limited thing. It's like 30 days, and then you can have this for 6 months. You'll just lose 12%. They'll discount that off and give you the thing back. Where they then say they'll refurbish it and make them available again. But they also have this rent to own thing, which I thought was an interesting way of doing it. So the minimum rate or monthly rent is 2% of the purchase price. That's €80 a month, or €90 if you order the flight case and the pedals to go with it. The monthly rental payments will be deducted from the purchase price. In other words, the instrument will be completely paid off within 50 months. So that's just over 4 years at the most. And you can, I guess, you can pay more if you win on the dogs or something, and you can pay a little bit extra. So that's and I guess, I don't know, so the instrument can be returned at any time. So you still get this kind of buyback plan in there as well. So I like that they've thought of this and thought, well, okay, this is a $4,000 instrument. You didn't see Moog do anything like that. And I guess he's more nimble and agile to be able to handle that in their only small business. But I thought that was quite interesting.
You need the flight case, because I'll tell you from first-hand experience, it's bleeding heavy.
Yeah. Well, you want to protect the $4,000 synth, don't you?
And the pedals as well, because the pedals make up 40% of the sounds on it are nothing without the expression pedals.
Gotcha.
But what I would say is everything about it, from the pedals, flight case to the machine itself, is the best quality.
Yeah,
really is.
Yeah.
He's not left anything out. All the encoders are good. The LCD is good. I don't know what you call them. The slide expression sliders. With the ribbons that go across the ribbons. Yeah. Sorry. They're really good. They it's amazing how much they do change the sound.
The pitch bend is kind of a Nord style pitch bend, isn't it? It's like a
yeah. You either love them or you hate them.
Yeah, I tried them out in the shop. I never really liked those.
Yeah, I'm sort of with Ben on that. He's saying no.
I can't get used to them at all.
No, it's
one,
I don't know.
One thing I found interesting because, as it's been labeled as a performance instrument, and there are a number of ways in which to modulate the sound, that it would have a panel that is predominantly buttons and just one encoder, which seems like for a performance instrument to have a knobby interface would be better, because if you think about it, if you're adjusting an ADSR, and let's see, you're going to adjust all 4 parameters really quickly. I mean, on most synthesizers, you're 1, 2, 3, 4, and you're done. But in that time, you've only adjusted one thing on this synth, because if I understand it correctly, and Simon, you can correct me, but you have to hit a button which selects that parameter, and then you turn the knob on it.
Yeah. So it's right. On the Moog One, they've got something similar where you can press a button and then assign it to the next button you touch. I think, really, in answer to your question, and you're right, Cryss, I think he kind of expects everyone to utilize the editing. And I will again say that the editing, there's no latency in it. If you turn the encoder on the synth, you'll see it in real time change on the software, and vice versa. And you can hear it in real time as well. So it's not like you change it on the program and then you have to send it back to the synth via SysX or anything like that, because it's Wi-Fi. It's very good.
But my thing was that while you are playing, that's to me the thing that I would think when somebody says this is an expressive instrument. The CS80 has been brought up in chat. And to be able to manipulate it as you play would be the thing, and that's where you're taking one hand off, and if you're adjusting an LFO or the envelope or something with a lot of synthesizers, you're just grabbing the knob and doing it. Whereas this, you'd still be playing, but you would hit a button and then you would go up to another location. You'd first have to find the button, so visually it's just a mass of buttons, and so if you're finding that one that's
monophonic editing. Yeah.
I mean, you're doing the grid, and then you're finding the button, and then you're turning the knob. And I'm sure some of that would become muscle memory with the more used parameters. But even in the fastest muscle memory, turning a knob versus finding a button and then turning a knob is never going to be as fast. I don't think that would be playing the panel would not be a thing with the synthesizer.
The other thing that's we're talking about, this being a performance thing, just dawned on me. There's no mod wheel. There's no apart from the pedals and the 2 ribbons. That's it. I'm assuming it's just channel aftertouch, not poly aftertouch. I couldn't see that mentioned anywhere.
I can't remember.
But you've just got that little bend thing, which it's a singular thing. I was just thinking, if it's a performance issue, we're talking about twiddling things in real time. Well, okay, maybe we don't want to tweak the filters or the LFOs in real time, but we do want to add, a little bit of mod, or a little bit.
I think to be fair, Rob, that is done with the pedals.
Yeah,
I think it is.
So that's another thing to learn. Isn't it?
But I agree with what you're saying. It should be, accessible on the front. It's another thing that they could have done, even putting it on the side or on the end cheeks or something. The only thing that I there's some very valid points. I think this was first shown in 17 at one of the NAMM shows.
Yeah, I remember seeing. Yeah, I think Nick at Sonic State had a.
Yeah, Nick did. I don't know when the spec for MIDI 2 with MPE came out. I just wonder whether or not Stefan missed that, because you'd like to think, wouldn't you, with MPE and the the possibilities with MPE, again, I'd say that I think that would have suited the machine very well.
Well, there was a recent interview, and I can't remember who did. Oh, it was it Synth Anatomy? I can't remember. European synth magazine reviewer, and unfortunately, he didn't have the second half of the interview. He talked a little bit more about his history in the first one, but when that was brought up about MIDI 2.0, he said, well, it's a possibility. And the way that I read it, as from how he was talking about it was that it's like, well, maybe we will, maybe we won't. We'll look into it. Which seems like a far less certain than like you have access to this thing that really might open it up, and it may take some time, but we'll get it done versus what it was, which was we'll have to see.
It wasn't MIDI 2.0 only finalized on or around the time of NAMM in January this year. I think that's when it was all kind of signed off by all the members of the
yeah,
MIDI
but I mean they must have surely given the spec earlier than last year.
Because you've got things like the Roly Seaboard that have been around for a few years now. They have that kind of rough implementation of it. Yeah, it's an interesting thing. That's the non-linear Labs C15. I'm sure that will cause many debates moving forward, and we shall see how successful it is and whether it leads to other things.
You should ask Ty, Rob, because he's got one. Ty Unwin's got one.
I'll give him a call. He's actually got one, has he?
Yeah, he's got one. He got his just before I got my one. So.
I need to see if I can get him on here.
Yeah. That interview was conducted by Synth Anatomy 1 month ago. So, MIDI 2.0 would have been well known.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, definitely. Cool. Right. So that's the C15 from Non-Linear Labs, and the webpage I was just about to bring up would crash, but it's just now coming back again. So we are talking once again about Roland Cloud. They have just launched the second of their model expansions, the SH101 model expansion. I don't like this thing here, a monophonic synth legend reborn as a modern polysynth. No, it's just a mono synth. That's all I ever want a 101 to be. Stop fucking around with it, basically. However, it's presented in their Zenology framework, which looks a little bit like that. So, the simplicity of the 101 interface has been easily transferred over here. But it's got obviously lots of extra things, of course, polyphony, unison mode. There's all the effects here as well. I've had a little play around with this. It's 101-y. It sounds just like the Simon's 101 that I borrowed last year. It sounds like the Behringer MS1, which I have up there, and obviously. The things that this does that can't do, you can't compare, but it's a simple, well laid out thing. It is what it is, and it's part of the package. If you already have a Roland Cloud subscription, it's there, and so why would you not want to play around with it? Let's go to Cryss first, because Cryss, you've just reacquired your subscription, had a little bit of bother doing so apparently as well. Tell us about that.
Yep. Well, I'll skip the parts about getting everything working because that would take the rest of the show. But, half a day later, it was all working. And so the first thing that I did, because there had been some updates since the last time that I had the cloud, and so I went and checked out both the ACB Legendary SH101 and the Cloud Zen SH101, as well as other synthesizers. So my opinion's probably directly opposite of Robbie, and I would say I didn't find it to sound that much like an SH101. Even just comparing to the Cloud, the ACB 101, I felt like that sounds like a 101 to me. Like when I play, I don't really feel the need to get a 101 or the MS 101 or anything like that. It's like just good. It sounds nice. It's got a certain depth and graininess and the motion of the synthesizer. But when I play the Zen version, it felt very thin, very static, and it just didn't really do it for me. Now, I would love if they did the Legendary series, if they did take some of the monos and made them polys. Mm-hmm. I mean, to have at least a 4, but if not an 8 voice Pro Mars or SH101. I think the boutique module, the 101, is 4 voice poly, if I recall.
Yeah.
I think that's a great idea. Some of us, the Moog app, the Moog Model D app allows the MIDI Moog sound, but in poly, and it can be fun to take it in that direction. Or Marshall Arnold's got a rack of Slim Fatties that he's made into a poly synth, and it's I think it sounds amazing. So I would actually like that, even though the original didn't do that. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much my opinion of everything Zen versus ACB anyway. And it's interesting because now I'm seeing, to me, again, I just, we all have our opinions, and it's okay, and whatever works for a person is great. And there's obviously, and I don't want to sound unbalanced, because the Zen architecture does allow things that the ACB can't do, as far as the current processing power. People can put those Zen-Core models on all sorts of devices and on their computer and run more instances of it. But for me personally, I just rather have less voices and a better sound.
Yeah.
And it's been interesting to see. Just one last thing here is that it's finally kind of hitting the forums that other people are noticing it too. So there's been some recent discussions on both Gearsluts and KVR about, like, hey, because there's a lot of confusion because of Roland's marketing. There's a number of people that are like, what are the differences? Didn't we already have one of these? And then, what I'm encouraged by is, like, people are like, well, no, it's, there's a real difference in the way that they're modeled and the difference in the sound. And most people have been fairly balanced about it. Like, they serve different purposes. Just don't give up on the ACB.
I wish, instead of doing this and the JX8P, obviously, but the JX8P, actually, that's different because we didn't have one. But the next ones are going to be the Jupiter 8 and... is it a Juno? I think they're already listed in the app, but when you click on them, nothing comes up.
I think a 106.
Yeah. So we've already got 75% of those models in the ACB form. Why didn't they look at doing something that they hadn't done in ACB in the Zenology thing? I mean, just do that first. It just would have been interesting. Would have added rather than doubled up, because now we've got two 101s in the cloud, and you pick and choose. But Ben, have you had to go with this?
It was more my opinion's very similar to Chris's. Actually, it's just I've already got the ACB 101 and I've got the MS 101, so it's not really offering anything for me. All right, there is like a reduction in like CPU intensity or whatever, but me MS 101 doesn't use any CPU, so I'll stick with that.
Yeah,
the
one thing
it's very confusing what they're doing.
Yeah, sorry. I was just saying the one thing I did notice is one of the great things that you can do with a hardware 101, whether it's the Roland or the Behringer, is it's the filter self oscillates, and that can really add something really, really nice. And it's kind of, I wouldn't say it's unique, but it's a signature thing. And the filter on this self oscillates on the Zenology one, but it's not the same. It's definitely not the same as the hardware. There's something, whether it was just my limited time using it, that maybe I'd got something switched on somewhere else, and I need to do a proper kind of like A/B. But that's the one great thing that I love about whether it's the SH101 or the MS1, is that you can get that filter to self oscillate really easily, and then you just blend in one of the other the normal oscillators, and get this kind of really kind of fat, deep, powerful sound. It's just a lovely thing.
One thing to remember with the Zen stuff is that there's just 3 filters in it: a sequential, an Oberheim, and a Roland filter, if I recall correctly. And so the Roland filter, so if you're thinking about different Roland, I mean, all these vintage Roland synthesizers, they sound like Rolands, right? If you're playing a 100M or a 106 or a Jupiter, whatever, they sound like Rolands, but they do have different filters, whereas the Zen stuff, it's just the same filter. So if you're JX8P or a Jupiter or a 101, it's the same kind of generic Roland filter, which so it is probably not going to do those particular hardware sounds because it's not going after the very particular 101 filter.
True. Yeah, very true. Simon, I can't remember if you have Roland Cloud or not. Have you had a go with this?
No, I don't have Roland Cloud.
I'll stuff you then.
Yeah.
He's got everything else. Let's let him off the hook.
We found the one thing he hasn't got.
I don't.
He's secretly buying it.
I can't
credit card
afford £80 a year. That's a lot of. No, it's. I think there's certain bits about it I liked. I wasn't. The poly thing was interesting. I wouldn't say because it plays polyphonically, it's going to be anything like a proper big poly. It sounds like multiple notes of an SH101. What I did like about it was the fact that you can save presets. That's great.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
And did. Yeah, and the demo, the presets he went through, I thought were pretty good. How many ways can you polish a turd, really? I mean, here we are with another 101. Some people are going to go, yeah, that's what I'm looking for, and other people are going to go, yeah, I've already got the hardware, or I've got another version, the ACB version, or whatever. Yeah, if you've got the cloud, it's a nice freebie, I suppose. I personally think a 101 should be monophonic because it, just like a TB303, really. If you had a 64-note TB303, I mean, I'm just sort of sat in a time warp with the original ones, but I thought there were some nice things about it. Again, it's a little bit sort of over-engineered, I think. But yeah.
It's funny. What you say is true. For so many years we didn't have a 101 clone or a decent software thing, and then all of a sudden we now have a glut. You've got is it the Lush D16 Lush 101 plugin? You've got the ACB plugin. You've got the Zen-Core plugin. You've got the MS1 from Behringer. You've got that new thin battery powered rechargeable one that's supposed to be coming, and it's just like they're everywhere now. And I get a bit bored of 101s, and so.
But there are so many good mono synths out there.
Yeah.
Software and hardware. It doesn't matter whether it's a Tesco value mono synth, or I was watching Alex Ball's thing on the Wasp, and
yes,
doesn't that sound good?
Yes,
for that, it looks absolutely Heath Robinson, but it sounds great.
Yeah,
and the Behringer stuff is good. I think. Yeah, I mean, if you go back to bare basics. If it sounds good, doesn't matter what make it is or what it's trying to emulate. Yeah. If you're happy with the sound, then
it's choice.
I think we could all agree that the one thing that neither the Zen 101 has nor the ACB one is the hand grip, right?
Yeah. Exactly. And that was where Behringer really did it properly. However, they put the hand grip in, but they removed battery power.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Stupid.
That was a big mistake, and
generated on your back.
Yeah, well, you can buy these little 9-volt output, they batteries for pedal boards and stuff, which will work apparently on something like this. So you could get that and strap it to your shoulder strap, and then go out there and and make a prat of yourself with on stage with one of those. I have seen there is a video on YouTube somewhere of somebody doing that, playing live, but they're tethered. They've still got the MIDI and the power tethered. So yeah, it's interesting. I think when I get my wireless MIDI things, hopefully in a couple of weeks' time, I might seek out one of those little 9-volt power packs and see how well that works as a remote thing. Not that I'm about to get up on stage, but it was something I always dreamed of doing since about 1982. When I saw that advert of the kid with it.
Just as an ancillary part, I can't remember, but I think I'm right in saying that the SH101, because we had one back in the original day, a grey one. I don't think the batteries last that long on them. So you'll be up there jamming away, and all of a sudden it goes, just dies on you. So.
Meant to do that. Yeah. So cool. There you go. That's the SH101 from Roland as the Zen-Core plugin, in addition to everything else that you get over there. Let's move on now to non-gear related. Well, it's kind of gear related, but it's not about a specific piece of gear. This is about selling specific pieces of gear, and it's the announcement that Reverb have made just this week that on August 4th, they're increasing their selling fees for the first time ever, they tell us, from 3.5% to 5%. So not a massive increase, but it's certainly a jump up. Reverb has really come in kind of leaps and bounds. I've bought lots of little things on there, like memory cartridges or the wood cheeks for my DX5 I got from Reverb. But I've never bought proper, gear synthesizer stuff off of Reverb, so I haven't had that kind of full experience. But thoughts on this in terms of comparison to things like eBay? I can't remember what eBay charges now, but is this a massive thing? Is this going to put people off, or is this just a small thing and we just really not notice it?
I think people will put the prices up of the stuff they're selling again, and I find that like Reverb's more expensive. You can see the same thing on Reverb and see it on eBay. The Reverb, it might be like $1.5 grand, and the eBay, it's like buy it now, 1,200 quid.
Right.
So the prices are already like higher, but yeah, I don't think it'll make that much difference.
No. I mean, they've been taken over, haven't they, by, is it the company that owns Etsy? Yeah.
Right.
And so they're clearly now driving towards a more profitable model. But there's on the page here, there was something, let me just see if I can find it, that showed what their current breakdown was. So, how much money you actually get in your pocket. And it's still a fair old chunk. So if you sell something for £100, you're going to get something like 95, 96 in your pocket, or something like that. So it's not a massive thing. And obviously, the more expensive stuff that you sell. But I'm slowly warming to Reverb as a community, as a place where you can go and check stuff out. There's lots of free things on there, like manuals, and it's a nice kind of central place to go and look for, even patches and stuff. And they did the whole drum machine sample library giveaway, didn't they, recently? They had loads of drum machine samples.
Yeah, that was nice.
Yeah, so there's nice little things like that. And then they also fund things like the Korg ARP 2600. There was a small documentary that featured Marc Doty, and Edgar Winter was in there as well. And that's all funded by Reverb. And some of their tutorial stuff is a little cheesy, but nevertheless, you get a video tutorial, but you also get you can get the MIDI files and the patch files and some samples to use, so you can mess around. So it's nice from a kind of educational perspective as well. Anybody got any other opinions about Reverb?
Yeah, well, so probably my experience with it is a little bit different, being in the U.S. And so while 1.5% is not really a big deal, especially you think about $100, but when you start selling guitars or synthesizers and you're getting up to $3,000, then it does make a little bit of a difference. But the couple of problems that I have is that I think it was last year, late last year. So in the United States, you used to be able to buy things across state borders and not be taxed. Mm-hmm. And then places like Sweetwater started granting, if your state really cared about that, they started capitulating to it. So that became difficult to buy new gear without getting, just jacked on tax. We've got some of the highest taxes in the nation here. The other thing is that then Reverb did the same thing. So it used to be private transactions are not taxed, because when say a synthesizer is sold, it's taxed by the government already. Mm-hmm. Now you go to do a private party transaction, there shouldn't be any. It's already been taxed.
Yeah.
it doesn't need to be taxed again. And so now they've made it so that even if I buy a used item from another state or anywhere, that I'll have to pay tax on that. And that's a lot bigger deal than the 1.5% on that, because now we're looking at about 8% more plus the 1.5 plus the 3% that PayPal takes out of their cut or the credit card or whatever. And so now it's gonna have a really bad effect on the used market, because most of the time I buy used. Very rarely have I bought new gear. The Moog and the Ricky have been exceptions that I did actually buy something new. But I mean, the thing is that I bought and sold gear all the time. I like to try things, and especially when I was really cycling through gear in my guitar days, like I was buying broken things and fixing them and reselling them. Now, if I were to do that, it takes such a big cut of my profit. It's just not worth doing it anymore. I mean, and not that I'm trying to make huge amounts of money on this. Like I want to break even if I try a piece of gear, and usually that's been the case. So it's going to drive a lot more sales, at least in the United States. It's going to drive a lot more of them to Facebook and to Gear Sluts or wherever you, Craigslist, wherever you buy gear, because you're not going to be charged any of that stuff. So the tax thing that they did was really the most painful. What makes this painful is not the amount of going from 3.5% to 5%, but it's the reasons that they had listed that they were doing it. Like, we want to have a bigger presence in the world. I don't remember the exact lingo, but we want to, for businesses to be able to do business all over the world. Like, I'm a private seller buying stuff from other private sellers in my country. That means nothing to me. And then in the middle of a pandemic, where everybody's hurting, like, well, thanks a lot that you just raised our prices, told us that it's good for us when it's not really good for us. And now we get this. So I don't know. I'm hoping that it will actually, the market will give them positive to reconsider what they're doing right now.
Yeah, they're saying that they plan to increase their investment from 2019 by investing over 30% more in marketing initiatives, including SEO, online video advertising and other digital advertising, to get your inventory in front of more buyers, expanding by more than 25% the capacity of global customer support, and increasing by more than 40% the capacity of our product team focused on creating and enhancing seller tools and services. So, you're a business. These should be things that you should be doing anyway, and not charging.
Why do we as private sellers, often selling to our own area, this means nothing to us?
Yeah. Simon, I don't kind of have you down as a frequent Reverb or eBay. I think you're kind of more face-to-face kind of trader. Am I right? Am I wrong?
But what I tend to do is make contact with people on Reverb, and certainly if I'm in the area, then I'll deal one-to-one with them, and buy it that way. But for Brits, if you pay with PayPal and buy anything from the States, you get taxed. PayPal add the state tax to it now, which has been around for a couple of years. Plus, if you have it sent back, which fortunately I'm not, I'm lucky enough to be able to bring stuff back. But if you have stuff brought back to the UK, import duty 21, nearly 22%. All these little taxes, and Cryss is quite right, it just add up and up and up and up and up. So what transpired to be possibly the bargain of the century ends up to being bloody expensive. And he's right. I mean, we've got a thing over here called Gumtree, which is similar to Craigslist. The only thing I would say about Reverb is usually there are fraudulent people everywhere, but most of the people that are selling the stuff that I'm after anyway are usually sensible people. You get the odd idiot, but I mean, nevertheless, the only thing with Craigslist and things like Gumtree, I mean, you just really do not know.
And I should have said that. I forgot to mention that, and I think that's a good point. Is like I would rather do business on Reverb.
Right.
I mean, I did eBay for years and years, but I would rather do my business with Reverb because it is a great way to do it. They've got it streamlined, it's safe. I've never had any problems with it, and that's a good point. Like I won't sell anything on Craigslist at all. Like I'll occasionally buy something, but forget it.
Yeah. I mean, wherever you go, you know, maybe 1 in 5 you're going to meet a complete bellend that just drives you up the wall. But yeah, Reverb is pretty good. But I agree with what Ben said. You know, Reverb for once upon a time was a lot cheaper than eBay.
Yeah.
It ain't now. It definitely ain't now.
No.
In fact, I would sense to say that there's not a lot of difference, or Reverb is more expensive. And as for these increased prices, I think you're just going to get the end seller just pumping the prices up to cover that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Shame, but well, it is.
Well, yeah, there you go. That's and again, once again, you know, like we said with the C15, people will vote with their wallets, and if fewer people sell on Reverb, they're going to have to, you know, think again. So interesting times.
That DX1 you're after, Rob, has just went up another grand.
Indeed. Yeah. So, we're talking about taxes and duties and that. You know, obviously, being in the UK at the moment, we can buy up until the end of this year. We can still buy stuff from Europe and not have to pay any additional taxes or import duties because of the EU. But of course, December 31st at midnight. That all finishes, and I know that there will be lots and lots of people who will start moaning about, you know, the extra, you know, prices, the inflated prices, and the import duties that will be incurred. We have, you know, when we're swapping bits over for Fairlights, obviously my colleague is in Sydney in Australia, so the first few things that he sent over to me, not only were they impounded and then, you know, had the duty put on and I had to pay to release them, but also there's the handling charge of Royal Mail, our postal service, which is sometimes more extortionate than the taxes themselves, particularly on small things. I mean, I think on average, if I have to pay something like a total of £20 or £25 to release something to come to me, a good £15 of that is the duty, but there's another £8 handling charge just for the privilege of them putting it in a cupboard somewhere and then sticking it on the truck. You know, once they've got my money, it's ridiculous. But now what we do is we mark up all our package and say used computer parts, which is true, or refurbished computer parts. And we even put a picture of the thing on the thing, and it generally gets through without any extra kind of import duties because it's not new, so they won't charge. But it's going to be an interesting time next year, especially here in the UK, with stuff like that. So there you go. Right, that's Reverb. Let's move on. Let's have a quickie. This one. Any biters for this one, Behringer? A few days ago. What would you say if we made the world's most desirable synth available to you? This being that's an ARP 2500. Interesting. Silence.
I think if they just made their little 2600, I'd be happy.
Yes, it's again, you know, just do the things you've already said you're going to do before you start talking about all this other stuff.
Yeah, all those little patch bays scare me, and so probably not for me.
Well, the reason that this piqued my interest was because, do you remember a couple of weeks ago they posted their pin matrix design, didn't they? They'd actually got and we all said, "Oh yeah, VCS3." Could it be this?
It could be used for both.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but could it be this that they were referring to rather than the VCS3, or it could be both? Yeah.
You know what the 2500 makes. Who I always associate the 2500 with is actually Pete Townsend.
Yes. Yeah.
And when I don't remember if it was in your plugging Robbie Puricelli's Sound on Sound interview with Alex Ball. I think it was on that one where he was talking about one of the things that he had wanted to do was to interview Pete Townsend and his involvement with that. And when I think about that, that's something that I would really look forward to, is to hear Pete Townsend talk about his, because he's one of the. I mean, he obviously he's very famous, but I kind of feel like he's underlooked as far as early synthesis go.
Oh yeah, the tricks that he was using with the 2500 and also with the Lowry organs and other bits that he was doing. Yeah, he's clearly a pioneer, but everybody views him as a guitarist, this rock guitarist, but he was way more than that. There is a documentary, I think it might have been one of the classic albums, by Eagle Rock, where they did Who's Next, and there's a section there where they're talking about Baba O'Reilly and Won't Get Fooled Again, and how he was doing that, and they took briefly, he sat at one of the things and he's still got it, he's still got the 2500. But yeah, it would be interesting. But
and he has the memory for it too, because he was talking about, it wasn't exactly this one; it was this other thing that I was using on here, but this is similar.
Yeah,
going back and forth on it. I thought, yeah, man, that would be interesting. And seeing that picture, I didn't see it until maybe last year. That picture of him on, I believe it's on an airplane, and he's got some headphones and a TB-303.
Yeah,
sitting there playing with it.
Yeah, he knew his stuff, definitely. Simon, would you be picking up one of these if Behringer produced a 2500?
I doubt very much they'd do it, to be honest with you. I'm still waiting for the UBXA to come out. I want to see what they do with that. I mean, I think we had a similar discussion the other week, actually, or whenever it was, on Jamie's thing about the System 100M. This debate about whether or not it would actually sound like a System 100M. Well, let's be honest, any old vintage analog, whether it be modular, poly, or whatever, they all sound different. If you put one next to each other, they would sound different. But I would imagine it would sound a good monophonic synth. If they came up with a 2500 and made modules for it, I would imagine it would sound very good. But would it be a 2500? I doubt that very much. But would I personally be interested in one? No, because I don't like the way Behringer do their monophonic modules. It's rather like you have to buy. I use the analogy of you have to buy a packet of cornflakes every week to get the gift out of it. If they came up with, here is the complete system of the System 100, and this is, I don't know, $2,000 ready to go. Rather like what Roland did with the System 500, the little mini System 500. Whereas Behringer released a module every 2 months or something. That would kind of get on my nerves a little bit, because I want the thing ready to go. Yeah. I don't want to have to wait for this module to be released and that module to be released. With regards to the 2500, and you're talking about Pete Townsend's one, no 2500 was the same anyway, because you ordered what module you wanted, so you could have a colossal system or you could have a relatively simple system. So what are they going to do with that? If they were going to make it, would they bring out one module every month? Christ, it would take you forever to get the thing going. So I don't know. I mean, if they were going to do it, I certainly think a lot of people are waiting for the 2600, which I think, from what I've seen of that, whether it sounds like a 2600, I've no idea. I've got a 2600 here, and if it comes out, I'd love to AB it. But it's going to be a sensible price. It looks great. It's rack mountable. It's going to sell. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, concentrate, I think, with Behringer on the things they're good at. Don't sort of go off on a tangent. VCS3 copy. Yeah, I think a lot of people would be interested in that, and I think it's well within their realm of doing it. Obviously, the big poly stuff like the UBXA and the CS80 are still a way in the distance, because they may have unforeseen difficulties with it. But certainly the stuff they're good at doing, carry on with it, because I think they're doing a fantastic job.
Yeah, absolutely. Ben?
Sorry. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Ben.
It's okay. It's okay, Chris.
Ben, have you got space now for one of these? If they did.
No.
Can you put it on top of those white cabinets?
I was going to say that, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think I had space before I put anything in the room. But again, I'd like the 2600 if I could find room for it, you know. But the big ones for me now, if I was going to try and squeeze anything else in here, I'd like it to be the BS80 or whatever it's going to be called.
Yes.
And maybe the Oberheim one, the UBXA, whatever it is. Those interest me. I've got the Pro One, and I like that. You know, I think that sounds all right. But I don't want any more mono synths. I don't want mono synths all over the place. So I've probably got enough with that and the Waldorf Pulse. They're my mono synths. Oh no, they're not actually, because I've got the MS101 and the Moog Sub 37. So I've got loads of mono synths. I don't need any more. No. But yeah, the CS80 clone and the OB8 or whatever it is, the OBX, that'd be great. Those would be absolutely, especially if they did rack mounted ones as well.
Yeah.
That'd be ideal to me. I've got to think like that now because I've got no room at all.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was thinking about mounting things flat on the wall.
Do you know, I've seen some really strange
weird,
ways of doing it. You know, particularly, you know, that you don't necessarily have to have them positioned to play as a keyboard. As long as everything's midied up, you can just centrally control, can't you?
But this is a great spot for my JD800 here.
Just on the wall, yeah. As a decoration. And that way, if the glue goes again, it just drips straight onto the floor.
Well, exactly, exactly.
Yeah. Chris, you were going to say something.
Yeah, you know, what I would like to see them do with some of these classics is, where I think they've made some bad decisions, is that, you know, they've had the line of, we want to be true to the original. And so, like with their Moog line, they just came out with, I haven't seen hardly anybody using them, but their Roland line, the System 100 stuff, I see everybody's getting those because they're Eurorack compatible. And so, and I know that the Moog stuff can be done and there's converters and all that kind of stuff, but who wants to mess with that? So you can connect it in with your vintage Moog gear. Well, if most people buying Behringer aren't going to have vintage Moog gear to connect it to. So let's go with the Eurorack standard. Even Moog has some problems with this, where they go, we want to honor our legacy. Like, no, how about you just do the thing that everybody else is doing, so that I can have some Moog stuff, and I can have this Behringer copies of whatever, Roland and Moog, and my Eurorack stuff, and I don't have to think about how to change the voltages to get everything to work, and this kind of trigger and that kind of trigger. Well, why can't we just do a standard? And that's why I think that they've done really well with the Roland issue stuff, is like I could go buy one of those modules. They're cheap, and I can plug it directly into my Eurorack, because I'm not ready to buy a whole system of them, although I think Si's idea of have a whole set of it ready to go is a good idea. I think a lot of people would like that. For me, I'm not looking for the whole thing. Like, I've got some stuff that can do similar things. Like, I don't need the LFO module or whatever. But I would like to be able to just directly integrate it. Let's work on that instead.
Yeah. No. I don't have any opinion on modular, because it's just not me. I will say, though, that looking at the Behringer System 100 stuff, I have thought, wouldn't it be nice if I just got one of each and built a Roland System 100 case, and then I think no stop, because it's a slippery slope, and I know, because of my obsession with collecting and hoarding, that would go incredibly wrong for my bank balance. It's bad enough.
I don't know if you guys saw some of Ramsey did a video about the System 100 modules, and the modules sounded really good.
Oh yeah, yeah, they do sound.
Looking forward to picking up some of them.
Yeah, maybe it's something if when I retire, maybe that's something. If I can retire, maybe that's something we'll look at. Okay, so there you go. That's Behringer and the Tease of an ARP 2500. But let's. My message to them is just get on and do the things that you've told us. Like, where the hell's the 909 clone? You know, it's probably stuck in the queue behind the Udo, which apparently has gone into production. They've done their first production run. So I read the other day, because somebody was talking about they were comparing the Udo with a couple of other synths, and they said, "Oh yeah, I'm going to get the Udo." I said, "Well, the other two synths you're comparing to, you can actually buy, and the Udo you can buy, but you don't get just yet." But anyway, I can't wait until we can actually talk about that. And somebody, I'm sure Simon will be the one we come to for the demo and the first opinion.
If I ever get one.
Well, yeah, if you ever get one. If it does, I hope it does. It'd be awful if it didn't, wouldn't it? I mean, there's been so much hype about it, so much excitement.
Yeah, I mean, slightly. I'm as impatient as everyone, because it gave me a little bit of intrigue and the wow factor. But I've emailed George. I've had emails backwards and forwards.
Yeah.
And he said to me, it's going to be ready in July, first week of July. Here we are at the end of July. And the shops are now saying August.
Yeah.
So, what's going on?
I mean, obviously, I can't speak about them personally. I don't know George. I don't know the company that well. I do know a company who shall remain nameless because of NDAs, who are bigger and certainly tooled up and geared up to produce hardware. And they had a plan to release a new synthesizer. And I was told July, still nothing. So maybe it is a thing. Maybe the impact of the pandemic, whether it's production in the Far East, whether it's to be honest, this company I'm referring to don't produce in the Far East. They produce in Europe. I hope I'm not giving anything away there, but they produce.
Yeah, but at least
Europe.
You can get one of this secret company's models,
this is true.
Or even worse, you could get two of them and stick them together with some duct tape.
Yes,
and then you get a longer version of it.
Indeed, yes. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think if there was no pandemic and it was just business as usual, and this situation was occurring, I think a lot of people would be rather justified in being frustrated. I'm inclined to cut a little bit of slack.
You're more than welcome to borrow my one next time we meet, because Rob already owes me a McDonald's, so
this is true.
That'll be two McDonald's you owe me, Rob. So that'd be a good excuse for you to come and borrow my one.
Absolutely. But you say two McDonald's, mate. When I took your order, I thought you were feeding a family, or were you going to take it home and cheese? Nine cheeseburgers, was it?
No, I'm not having that. It was one quarter. Do you know what? Honestly, we say McDonald's. It's terrible, isn't it? Really.
Yeah. I was most disappointed.
I'm actually not a fan of McDonald's. I'm really not. But we were limited, and the bloody thing was shut as well, wasn't it?
Well, where we met, which was a service station on the side of the A14, and there was just lorry drivers, wasn't it? It was lorry drivers everywhere, and I was really looking forward, because they've got a great burrito place. It's a bit like Chipotle, but it's not Chipotle. And I was really looking forward to a massive... And I deliberately didn't have any dinner, and then drove like over an hour to meet Simon in the middle of nowhere to swap out, to put a synthesizer in my car. And the bloody place, all there was a Costa coffee. It really didn't appeal. So yeah, I do. I will buy you two. Whatever. It's worth it. It's worth it.
It definitely wasn't 9.
No.
You paid me to eat 9.
Oh dear. Right. Okay. Now this one we're going to go to Cryss for, because Cryss has an insight, being that he is a user of the Sensel Morph, and they have just announced this thing, which is the Sensel Morph API is now in pure data. I'm sure Cryss will explain exactly what that means. And this is one way to use it. Now, I've deliberately muted the audio because, and I'll explain a little bit later on, but and now the video has stopped playing. Oh, here we go. So using the Sensel Morph, which is this kind of template of a touchpad that you can put overlays on, you can now control not only your synthesizers but things like lights and other things, and it's really kind of expanded its use. And this maybe isn't so much a musical thing, but it's an interesting thing nonetheless, and just shows the capabilities of this rather small but funky device. So maybe our resident Sensel Morph owner, Cryss, can give us some comments and feedback or anything you know about this.
Yeah, so as far as the technical details of what they're doing there, I'm not much help, but of course you guys have all seen the Sensel Morph. I've actually have it plugged in and charging it right now, but it's a wireless unit, and so it uses. I think that's me that you're hearing there because it's hooked up to Logic. Let me turn that off. Get out of here, Zen-Core. All right. So you have different overlays, of course. The one that I tend to use the most is the music production one, and you can set it up for anything in its MPE. And there's a Buchla Thunder overlay that's really popular for this that people have been using that sound really good. In fact, somebody posted one in ProSynth Network on Facebook. And they've had actually for a long time an overlay that's for video work. So it's a full video editing, like transport controls and all sorts of cool stuff. With this, I mean, in any of these, you can set it up. So like if you're using the key one, you can press and then you could slide up like it's a ribbon controller. And then you can set full X, Y. So if you play a note, you have pressure, you have X, Y, pitch or vibrato or whatever you want to change, filters. And it's pretty impressive because you can set up all that stuff in the app and do that. Now, they have a developer's overlay already, which I think it's clear, and you can put a piece of paper and program it and then put this clear overlay over it. And wherever you've marked on your paper, you can, have it do custom things. And this is, I guess, taking advantage of, because it has so many sensors. By the way, it just looks like it looks like it belongs with a MacBook or something. But it has so many sensors and they're, touch sensitive in multiple areas. So what they have done in this video, which if you guys haven't seen it, go check it out. He's playing a synthesizer with and doing multiple things at once with all the fingers. So changing the timbre of it, the pitch, sliding notes around and vibrato and all that. But then it's also controlling the lights in the room. And so this has been designed as a device that will be completely multifunctional. And one of the reasons I had wanted to get it, so I had picked up one used and it came with a case and these overlays. I mean, as far as like this MPE and multi-dimensional timbre manipulation, it's really quite impressive. It's small. I mean, you can take it on the plane with you and do your computer stuff. Play with your rolling cloud. What's that?
Maybe not when you fly.
Yeah, that's what you want to do. That you have your laptop with a flight simulator on there, and then you'd have this thing. And you could do that, really freak the person out next to you. That would be cool. and then of course, Captain Simon would come down from the cockpit and kick the shit out of you for freaking his passengers out.
Actually, on the flight deck, we've got an iPad holder, and I would imagine that would fit perfectly in the holder, so you could actually have it up there.
You're flying 787s now, aren't you?
I am indeed.
Yes. So is that because the Airbuses have got the joystick on the left, haven't they? Is the 787 the same, or has that still got the traditional yoke on one of those?
Yes, we've got the traditional.
All right, good old-fashioned too. Oh.
Yeah.
Yes. Sorry, just a side like that. In fact, because I'm a closet kind of aviation geek. Well, I used to be, not so much now, but I do like my flight simulators. So when I met Simon, he tickled both my fancies. So, Cryss.
Oh my.
Let's edit that bit out.
So,
Hugh George Takei.
How much wine have you had, Puricelli?
Not enough. Not enough. Sorry, Cryss. Is this? Do you see this? What do you see as the potential for this API integration thing that's going on?
Yeah, well, all the technical bits I haven't read enough about to understand it. Now, one of the things that's on the software, you can build it, and it's all up on GitHub, and that sounds like something that I don't want to spend hours figuring out how to do. I've done some assembling of things in Xcode in the past, and I'm not quick to get back onto doing that. But maybe as this gets developed, when it becomes some software that you can download that integrates with your Morph, I imagine, live musicians, this might be something that would kind of take both the multidimensional sound, but of lighting and whatever else you're doing, and kind of put it all into one. One of my main uses that I've had, as I use it for live playing of drums, and I've got my little cheat sheet here of what the pads and just kind of my idiot's guide, like of what notes they are. This is a tom, this is a snare, that kind of stuff, and this has been really useful. And one day I will get around to assigning all this other stuff here to do things, so that I could have it just set up on my desk and easily access it. But the thing is that, my use of it is really caveman-like here, and the possibilities of what you can do with it are quite amazing. They've been very forward-thinking about, we're going to expand this into other areas. Like I said, there's the video editing you can do with it, or light control, and I imagine they'll expand that into other areas as well.
Yeah, I'm always wary of universal controllers. So I bought a remote control, a touchscreen remote control that you could set up to control your AV receiver, your television, your video, your DVD, your Blu-ray, and you could have something like 10 devices. But it got to a point where that was no longer being really developed, and it kind of just fell by the wayside. And there are other kind of universal. I bought an Event Easy Bus. I don't know if anybody knows this. It wasn't a massively popular thing. I can't really show it because it's under the rack. But it's a 3-in-1 mixer, software controller, and door interface. So it has all the transport controls on there, and again, after like a year, they just stopped developing it, and therefore it just became redundant because the software was moving on, but the hardware wasn't. The firmware wasn't being updated. So I'm always wary about this. I'm really, really tempted to get one, particularly with not so much for the keyboard thing, but for maybe the MPC style drum overlay, and even something that what's the one that they do with the purples? Is it the purple? Yeah, the video editing. Because I do a lot of that for my day job, and that would be really useful. So I'm wondering if I can maybe get one of these and convince my boss to pay for it and say it's a work thing. God damn it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm always wary.
Sorry, can I ask how it's powered, Chris? Is it battery operated as well?
It's battery operated. I've got it connected up via USB to my computer because I was charging it. But yeah, it's battery, Bluetooth.
And the battery's like a fixed battery in there. It's not something you can replace, not user replaceable.
No, it's not.
Like an iPad type of battery.
Yeah. If you can see it, it looks like it's made by Apple.
Yeah, it does. From here, it does. Yeah.
But it's actually with quite useful.
How much does it cost, Chris? What's the retail on it?
I don't know what they are new. The overlays are probably between like $40 and $60, I think.
So
I got mine.
So Morph with a single overlay is £202, and then you can buy bundles with with extra overlays, and the more you buy, the cheaper it is. You can get the complete Morph bundle. So that's every overlay that they produce, and the device itself for £379.
Wow! And how quickly, if you change the overlay, Chris, does it change? Because the overlay is basically the program.
Sure.
Oh wow!
Yeah, it's immediate. So like if I have, the this on here, and as I move it, you can see stuff lighting up. Things are happening. I take that off, I swap it onto here, and within a second, it's already able to use this. It has an app that you configure it with. I mean, it'll play immediately as soon as you plug it in, but with Logic or whatever. But you can have presets on it. So when I switch overlays, it goes completely to this. So, but yeah, I thought it was a really interesting idea, and I had picked up this and 2 of the 3 overlays. I bought this. This is the one that I wanted, I think, because I didn't. This is the one I never use. It's a drum overlay, but it's better for finger drumming if you use the 4x4 pattern here.
Yeah.
But I mean, I just found somebody that was selling one on Reverb, and he had several of the overlays and the case with it. And it's got its cable and all that, but
and they're magnetic, are they? They sort of sit on it. Wow.
Yeah, so they're rubbery.
Yeah. And
then, however they work, they've got, I think, probably in these bands, they've got just very low power magnets that snap. It snaps into its correct position really easily.
So, if you want the complete Morph bundle, and I apologise to our non-UK viewers, it's £387, and that gets you. And this is actually, the more I look at this, I'm thinking I'm gonna, if I get any money for my birthday in a couple of weeks' time, I might put it towards this. So you get the Morph itself, you get the piano overlay, the drum pad overlay, the music production overlay, the Thunder overlay, the Innovators overlay, the video editing overlay, the tactile keyboard overlay with a choice of layout, so you can have QWERTY, AZERTY, or Dvorak. Gaming overlay, a travel case, choice of color. You can even add the developer cable in for an extra $10, and then you get a couple of licenses to Arturia's Analog Lab Lite and Bitwig Studio 8-track, and the USB cable, all for £387. That sounds like a really, really good deal, I think.
Yeah, and it's a company that's doing something innovative and interesting. So to support that kind of startup company, I think is a good idea.
Yeah.
Cryss.
Yeah.
Can I ask, what does that is it Morph? What does the Morph offer that like maybe an iPad wouldn't? I don't want to
cheaper.
Mess everything up here. I'm just curious as to this magnetic overlay thing as opposed to graphics on the screen. Is it more tactile or?
Yeah. Obviously having some software on an iPad would do a lot of the same things. Although you wouldn't, I'm not sure how much the iPad. I'm not an iPad user. I have an iPhone, but I'm not sure as far as pressure goes. How well that would work, or how many sensors it has compared to the Morph. But the feel of it has a nice feel. It's a little bit rubbery, and I mean there's texture to it. Like it's not too hard. Like you've played controllers where they're supposed to have like multi-dimensional touch, but they're really stiff. Whereas this feels just the right amount. It's not too spongy. It's not too hard. It's easy to control the pitch or the pressure with it. So, so of course there are ways.
An Ableton Live type of, or like that machine thing that I've got here. Can you utilize it that way? I mean, or is it just purely a controller?
It's just purely a controller. So, and the software just controls how you configure it. So everything that you do with it will be dependent on the software that you use it with. So for me, it's using it with Logic or if you did it with Final Cut Pro or whatever.
And are there templates, software templates for each application that you'd have to do? Are they supplied? I mean, how does that work? So if I want to use it with Logic, I'm assuming that, say for example, I don't know. Well, I mean, what's the interface between the Morph and the software? Is there a little program that sits in between that works on the computer?
Yeah, there's a Sensel Morph program. Let me pull it up here. Sensel app, and it basically just looks like the trackpad area, and then you can select in it the presets that you have. So it pulls up a picture of like it looks just like this, except it has the MIDI notes and what it's controlling, and then on the bottom you can configure all the CC commands.
Okay. So if I wanted to use this with a video editor and say it wasn't Final Cut Pro, which I'm guessing it probably can handle, there's probably a preset for that. But maybe, if I'm using DaVinci Resolve or something else, and there wasn't a preset configuration for that, I can just go in and say, this button is play, this is stop, this is pause, this is wipe. Yeah. Okay.
Probably assign them to keys.
I mean, think about how configurable it is.
Is there a learn function? So if I say click on the option in the app and then say learn and then just tap the area on the morph, it learns it. Does it do it like that?
Let's see here.
Because that's one thing I really love about, particularly, I think it's at UVI Falcon, that it doesn't matter what controller I'm using, I can just right-click, MIDI learn, hit the button, boom, it's there.
Yeah.
And it's really quick and simple.
So the way that I have it configured, I have not tried to do it from that direction, so I'm not qualified to give an answer on it. What I have done is, again, in my caveman use of this, I just haven't spent the time to really... I really haven't set up even the other things. I mostly just use this music production one, but with you pull open any software synthesizer and use their MIDI learn function to this, or I don't even remember, because I know I redid this 4x4 structure for certain notes to trigger certain sounds. So I'm not sure as far as the Sensel Morph app. I mean, you can do everything manually for sure. It would be nice, and maybe they have this, and it's been a while since I've really sat and tried to figure it out. I just use it. But I think that would probably be something that they would have, like a template, here's download a template for this software.
Yeah, I really like the video editing thing. I can actually see that being a real benefit for me. For work.
I'm guessing for the speed, is it USB 3, Cryss?
Shoot, I don't remember.
Well, if it's video editing and that, I would imagine it's got to be.
It's USB, Bluetooth LE, which is Bluetooth 4 and above, and serial connectivity. According to this, the resolution 6,500 DPI. That's pretty good. I like it now. I think I might be sold on that.
Yeah, it's definitely become more interesting with opening it up to like loads of things. Like Cryss said, for live use, it'd be a smaller band, or even a lighting engineer might find some sort of benefit.
Yeah,
and being able to develop your own overlays for it is a pretty interesting idea too, because sky's the limit as far as what you want to do. And what I thought about it, like it came with this overlay, which. Would I have bought it? I don't know. But it is kind of interesting that here you have a small controller in it, and as all these synthesizers are becoming MPE compatible, I do have my X key, my CME X key that does polyphonic aftertouch and stuff, but it's limited as far as dimensions. So rather than going out and buying something that's a lot more expensive, like a Raleigh Seaboard, or that one that I really want to get, which was it the Osmos Expression? Was that what it was called? Yeah, I really want that. But if you're on a budget, you're just thinking about recording for a moment. I mean, you have your regular whatever controller you're using. You're like, I want to do a really expressive lead. Maybe it's a violin or some sort of like multiple control with the analog synth. You've got this 2 octaves, which you can bend and manipulate. It's good enough for most leads to be able to do that. And so then you can get your really authentic sounding saxophone or whatever, as much as you can get with, using a key type interface rather than a wind controller.
It's reminding me of when Logic first, Apple first brought out the iPad remote for Logic. I was like trying it, and I was trying it on the mixer and everything. I thought, this is great. You can grab like 3 or 4 faders at once and move them all at the same time. It's brilliant. It's much better than using the mouse. Yeah. And then I discovered that there was a keyboard on it. And it was like, all right, okay, yeah, I don't really need a keyboard, but like I'll give it a go. And then I realised that you could slide from note to note. So you're playing like this mono synth thing, and you can just slide everywhere. And I came up with this, like, what I thought it was a great part, like they're playing away, recording it into Logic. And when I played it back, I just went all the way down. He hadn't recorded any of the motion at all.
Oh, no.
Just the on-offset records, So the iPads aren't great for that.
And just the other thing that you can do, like even if you don't want to buy this hardware, the cheap way is when GoShred Pro goes on sale, and it gives you kind of an instrument type interface that's, I've showed this. And so as a guitarist, this is a familiar interface to me because it looks like a kind of a guitar layout, but then you have all that slide and vibrato type of ability on it.
I was just gonna ask if you've had any experience with the instrument, Cryss, because over here, I know Roger Lynn's doing it, but it's a very small company. But other than it looks great, I don't know if you've had any experience with it or.
I've played one once with a Deckard's Dream,
right?
Or for you guys, Deckard's Dream, yeah, Deckard's Dream.
Deckard's Dream.
And Philip K. Dick was a Californian, so I'm pretty sure I'm pronouncing it correctly.
I think you'll find he was from Warrington.
Even if he was, he wouldn't admit to it.
So I did play the instrument briefly, like less than 5 minutes with a Deckard's Dream, and it was interesting. I liked it, but to be honest, I didn't have enough time to really spend with it. The one thing that is weird to me about it is that I keep with any of these things like the Ghost Shred or the instrument. Instead of doing this, like I want to pick it up and use my left hand like this, but then it's a really weird thing to do because that would be really I'd just fly on it, but I'd have to relearn a little bit of muscle memory in a different way to use it. But I do think it's an interesting, and when I see people who use it well, I'm very impressed by it.
Anyway, there you go. That's the Sensel Morph. Now, I just want to quickly mention this. This wasn't in our notes, and I'm kind of springing this one on the guys. But I said that when I put the video up that I was going to mute the audio because we've had 2 instances on this channel where we've promoted people on YouTube that have got stuff on YouTube, and 2 of them have complained, shall we say. They've issued copyright whatever it is that they call, and basically they want to monetize our video, our 2.5 hour video, because we played a tiny snippet of their stuff, and that really gets me because we do this out of our own time and our own effort and our own money, and they want to do that, and we're promoting their stuff. And that just really, I was telling the guys about this after the show. I think it was last week, and I said, look, I raised a dispute, and I said it was fair use. We were promoting them. We gave it, if you watch the thing, it gives out all the details, where to find them, go and listen to all their stuff. We're driving, albeit a fairly small number of people, I guess, to their channels, and one is a major global corporation, Eagle Rock, and they got us for a small clip of the Genesis. Do you remember Genesis a couple of months ago were doing live YouTube broadcasts? Not live broadcasts, but they were uploading live concerts. And I picked one out because Tony Banks's rig was just like complete synth porn. And so I thought, we'll just play a few seconds of that. And to be fair, we've disputed it, and they've not come back to us, and it looks like they're going to just time it out. But the other guy was a small guy, just like us, an independent guy who, I don't know whether he found it or whether there was an algorithm that picked it out and notified him, probably both. And we appealed, we countered the claim, and he put his foot down and said no. I'm claiming this, all 30 seconds of it, and I'm going to be able to monetize your video. And so I went in today and I used YouTube's new mute algorithm, because before you could just mute everything, but now you can actually, they say, I haven't tested it to see if it's worked, I've put it into motion, you can actually mute the offending piece of music so the speech stays. So I think that's quite a useful tool if it works. So it just when I was doing this, I guess, YouTube's wonderful algorithms pointed me to a channel which I'm already very familiar with, because I think the guy is really, really good. I enjoy his stuff a lot. And it just so happened that a couple of days ago, he posted a video because he's having similar problems. It's Rick Beato. And he confronted the people that blocked his videos, and he goes off on this rant, and it's a beautiful thing. I like the guy a lot, personality-wise, as well as the fact that he is incredibly talented and incredibly generous with his knowledge. And he says in this video, look, this YouTube channel, I make some money off it, but I don't make any money off the videos that... for example, he has a series of videos called What Makes This Song Great, which, if you haven't watched, watch them.
Fantastic. They are very good.
They are so good. And somehow he gets hold of multi-tracks of these songs, and he goes in and he says, listen to this bit. This is how they did it. And sometimes he'll recreate it for you and show you how you can do it. And it's just a really great educational thing. And he does not monetize those at all, because it's not his work. And he gets it. He's in the industry. He's been in the industry a long while. But he got blocked, or he had a video blocked because of playing a snippet of a King Crimson thing. And he was, again, like us, he was promoting and sharing this content so people could go off and do it. And it just seems so petty that some artists or content creators and even YouTube themselves are making this so difficult for just, us people at a grassroots level to put content together. And we have no intention. We don't make a fortune off of this. We don't make anything off of this at all. And we don't really have any intention yet of doing anything until we, get decent audience numbers. But I just went off on one there, I know, but it really does rankle with me. And I would suggest going and watching Rick's video, because I can't articulate some of the stuff. He played a clip from Don Henley, didn't he? Because Don Henley's banging on about.
That was. Don Henley has a room of 60 people, or something like that, 30 or 60 people that are just manually going through videos to make his, and then he's boohooing about that he never makes any money about it.
Oh yeah. And there he sits in his, this splendid suit, and he's, oh come on! And Rick is apparently going to be testifying before a Senate committee, or a subcommittee or something.
Subcommittee, yeah.
So that'd be interesting.
Seriously, usually you'll see him in the photos with a guitar or something, because he is a guitarist.
Yes.
But he talks in those videos. He talks about all the instruments. He's got a really great understanding of music theory, and so you get a lot of that. But then there are some of these rant videos, and he's one of the big, what would you call them, protesters, or somebody who's trying for change within YouTube, because he sells his own stuff, but he's on there providing tons of free content.
Yeah.
It's funny. Last night I got one of the worst comments, maybe the worst comment that I've ever gotten on YouTube. I mean, I got reamed on it for a video that's like 2 years old.
Yeah, that was me in disguise.
Well, it was a video that you had already commented on, so and you said nice things. So
I cover my tracks very well, Chris. I'm joking.
It's balanced, he leaves a good comment and has to come and leave a bad one.
And I kind of had the same, but I had the same feeling as Rick had about this. Is like, I hate filming stuff. It's so difficult for me to get up the energy to do all the video work for YouTube, and I'll share stuff, and you can take what you want from it if you like the stuff that I have. And then this guy he tried to rip me a new one, but the things that I'll take seriously in that category would not be anonymous YouTubers with no videos and all of that. It's like, yeah, that doesn't really bother me.
Whenever I have a comment like that on any of my videos, I don't even bother. I just block. That's it. If you leave a comment, and I get my fair share. In fact, I posted many years ago, and this kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier. I posted a clip from that Who documentary where he does the Baba O'Reilly or the Won't Get Fooled Again riff. And I posted that so many years ago. It was around the time that somebody developed a patch for the Alesis Fusion that emulated what he did with the Lowry, and it was very good. And so I posted this thing up, and I think probably about once a month I get a comment on that that is a derogatory comment about Pete Townshend's supposed sexual preferences. And we won't go into details because it's never been proven in the court of law. But and it's always somebody with no video content, and I said, I'm fed up, block it. And in actual fact, in that Rick Beato rant that I was talking about, there's a moment in there. He's clearly got somebody off camera that's monitoring the comments and making sure the stream's going okay. And Rick's clearly seeing the comments come up, and somebody takes the piss out of Rick and says, "Get off my lawn!" And Rick says, "See that guy? Block him." Just block him.
Says, anybody who says "Get off my lawn," block all of them.
Yeah, exactly. And he's got 1.6 million subscribers. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, no, because I'm in the. I don't put YouTube. I don't put YouTube videos up, but I do watch them. And I look at some of these comments. All the people that I watch their videos, I watch Cryss's, I watch Lisa's, I watch yours. I admire the work you guys put into them, but some of the comments, just the work that it actually takes to do some of these short videos, as you said, but. I noticed, just as an example, that the one that Alex Ball did on the ARP, and I only say this not only because I think it's done extremely. I mean, it should be on national TV. It's that good a show.
Yes.
God only knows how long it took him to do it.
1 year.
Yeah.
And someone put a negative comment on it, and I think if you can honestly put a negative comment on that, what the fuck do you want in life?
Yeah.
Seriously,
absolutely. I mean, I spoke to Alex.
My money back.
Yeah, I spoke to Alex about that whole thing, and it's on the Sound on Sound podcast. It's available now, free of charge.
All right.
But yeah, I interviewed Alex, and I said to him, "How long did it take you to make that thing?" It was a year to the day. It was 1 whole year of work to do a 2-hour video. And I do videos for work in my day job. I do training videos. A 5-minute instructional video will take a few weeks to make from beginning to end. So that's storyboarding, that's, it's stakeholder reviews, it's all this kind of stuff. And it just takes, these things do not take, it's not just switching a camera on and saying, blah, 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 because you see videos on YouTube that are where they just switch the camera on, it's a stream of consciousness, and they're awful, and you switch off. If you want to keep engaging, people and having them come back to you week after week or whatever, you have to spend time and effort, and that is not, it's not an easy thing to do. And so I know Alex, and I know that he would probably laugh that off in public, but he would also, that will have hurt him. Because it hurts all of us. It hurts me when I see a bad comment on and most of the time I just like, who are you?
But even guys like Lupop, and I think the guy explains. You don't need to pick up a manual with that. He's just isn't he good?
Yeah.
His latest one, or one of his latest ones, was on the Iridium, the Waldorf, and he was going through stuff on that I honestly didn't even know it could do.
Yeah. The amount of effort, and
I know, and yet he gets negative comments as well, and I'm thinking, what planet are you on?
I know. I mean, this whole thing, right? It's taken us a while to get to a point where we can have a live stream. We have multi cameras, multi guests. We're not perfect. We're not Sonic State perfect, and even Sonic State, even Nick would say that he's not perfect, but we're not 4K, we're not all in synchronization, we have issues and stuff, but there's effort involved. And then once this is all finished, and a few days afterwards, I'll go back in and I put in the chaptering and all of that, and that can take up to an hour sometimes to put that in and make sure we get that right. So I'm not saying that that's a huge amount of effort, but it's effort that you have to do. It's not just something you can say, oh yeah, I'll just turn the camera on and make it. And so it really gets my goat when somebody just wants to monetize your work because you promoted them, and it just makes you think, well, maybe next time I'll ask them. I'll say, look, I'm going to promote you, but then if they don't pick it up, the algorithm will. And so the algorithms are getting really thorough. It's not just audio, it's visual content. They've analyzed the visual content, and if there's a match, boom, that's it. It strikes you, and you don't get obviously it's not a blatant copyright strike, and it's not one of the ones where 3 ones and you're out. But it's somebody's making money and throwing adverts up on our video that we won't make any money off of, simply because for 30 seconds in the background there's some of their stuff, and it's
just seems far too easy to deprecate someone on YouTube for the silliest little thing where there's no intent in it.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, but
that's the thing. The algorithms don't take into account the context. They can't. But then 60 people in a room working for Don Henley and the Eagles could, if they wanted to, take in the context, but they don't. They just pick out these things and go for it. Anyway, just thought I'd get that off my chest. Native VS in the chat room says, will there be a full version of the Sound on Sound podcast with Alex Ball? No, I don't believe there will be. There obviously was edited quite substantially, but what I am doing is all the stuff that ends up on the cutting room floor is being stored, and we'll make up, we'll put it into other things as well. But no, that was a single thing. And thank you, Sasquatch, for your kind words. He says, we appreciate all your effort. That's why we are here week after week. And absolutely, we don't get Sonic State numbers. We don't get sort of Geosynth numbers even, but we get some numbers.
We get regulars.
Yeah, we get regulars. And listen, guys, just share the love. Tell everybody about us. Promote it on your Facebook and your socials, as they say, and get us a few more listeners or watchers, and then we can maybe do something better. But anyway, rant over. We're almost at sort of 10 minutes to go.
Well, I want a Pro Synth polo shirt when you get the sponsorship and get them made. So Ben, double XL for me, mate, please.
All right.
Another one that I thought, because it was mentioned in the chat room, and I thought, actually, yes, we should just briefly mention this. This one will probably be just for the UK viewers, unless you know a way to watch the BBC iPlayer outside of the United Kingdom, which if you do, that's fine, but don't broadcast, because I'm sure it's not legal. But last night there was a fantastic documentary. It's not necessarily synth related, but it's music related, and it was all about the Rockfield studios in Wales, in Monmouthshire, and the history behind the whole Rockfield studio that started was a farm, and then the two brothers that had inherited it from their parents wanted to be pop stars, rock stars. Got the story they told about how they did this. They took their they bought a couple of guitars. They bought a 2-track or a 4-track reel to reel, made a demo tape, and took the machine down to to EMI at Manchester House in London, and through a sequence of fortunate events were able to gain access to the building and to George Martin's office, where George Martin entertained them and said, okay, what have you got? They had to plug this reel to reel in. Apparently the plug sockets didn't match or something, I don't know, and eventually they got it working, and George Martin says, well, thank you, sirs, but no, that's not really quite what we're after. So they got turned down. So they decided, well, screw you, we'll do this ourselves in the old-fashioned way. So they started to convert their barns and outbuildings into what was to become one of the first, if not the first, residential recording studios, certainly in the UK, if not the world. And bands could come down and just, sleep, live, eat, and record great music. And of course, over the years, the likes of Black Sabbath, Queen, Stone Roses, Boo Radleys, Led Zeppelin, Simple Minds, Hawkwind, Adam and the Ants, and a whole bunch of, just amazing, legendary recordings have happened at Rockfield, and it's just a brilliant. So if you get the chance to find this on iPlayer, it's there for another 29 days. It's an hour and a half, brilliant documentary, really, really well done. So just thought I'd stick that one out, even just to watch it for Ozzy, because that guy, how he's still going, it's bonkers. Absolutely bonkers.
I saw, Robbie, that you had posted a document, or I don't know if it's a interview with Robert Plant by myself.
Oh yes, that followed. It was brilliant.
Yeah, I gotta say, I was really looking forward to listening to that.
Yeah. Robert Plant, his voice is just, it's just amazing. It's just so good, and it kind of followed his solo career. And the work that he did in Morocco and Egypt, and then with Alison Krauss, and he's just this. He can turn his hand to anything, and that voice just lends itself so well to much. Yeah, I went on a bit of a Led Zeppelin trip after that, and
Did you get anywhere with Ian Stanley after I gave you his email, or
no? I can't remember. Did I? I think I might have emailed him, but I haven't heard anything back.
Right.
So. But I might be wrong, because I have so many emails that I have to kind of put out and send, and I kind of lose track. What I'm doing is I've got 2 weeks off work after this week, and I'm going to be sort of like catching up on non-day job business. So I might drop him a line. But yes, thanks for that. And,
no, not at all. Just be a good one to do, I imagine.
Yes.
Got a fair few stories to tell, one way or another.
Just a few. I'm just frightened he's going to say, "What the did you do to my Fairlight?"
No, I'm frightened he's going to say, "Hang on, I never gave it to the people you got it from. I want it back."
Yeah, I want it back. Yeah. Well, Ian, I can tell you exactly where it is.
Yeah, thanks.
Right. Okay. So I'm going to two things. Right, I've got two more things. This one from IK Multimedia. I reached out to my colleagues at the company and was hoping to get an example of this to either demonstrate or to at least use, but unfortunately that didn't happen in time. But it's there, part of the T-Rax, which is a brilliant package of effects and tools. For $99.99 you get this emulation of the Roland Space Echo, which, from the sounds, from what I've heard, it sounds really, really, really good. Is this something that anybody here would relish buying?
I think we'd all relish it.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Move on. Next one. No, it looks great.
I'm in.
Yeah, it's one of those classic sounds. I mean, when you think about delay units, it's always got to be one of the top ones that people go after.
It is, isn't it? It's weird, isn't it? I mean, I'm not saying it's weird. It's everybody wants a space. It's like the one effect unit that everybody wants.
Yeah. Although, to be quite honest, the reverb is absolutely dreadful on it, but the tape echoes are so good.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to getting hold of this.
Yeah, I use a lot of IK Multimedia software, and I have a number of the hardware stuff too. But I know it's something that I'll eventually get just cause. But the other one that really is a remarkable sounding space echo is the Audio Thing Outer Space. It is shockingly good. I haven't tried the IK Multimedia one yet, so I'm looking forward to kind of running them head to head, but no pun intended there.
But see, they've done some added features on that which are very useful, because the originals sound their best just when the tape is about to break. That's a fact. And what they've done on this is they've put a button on it, or a facility where you can emulate tape aging, which is brilliant.
Yeah.
And again, the originals go for stupid money, and it apparently the originals are like bottles of wine. You have a good year and you have a crap year.
Yeah.
Whether that's true or not, I don't know, but I've heard that reliably from quite a few people. And a friend of mine's got one. He says, tapes break and they're expensive. If the heads go, they're expensive, and they're just at their prime when the tape is about to shit out on them. So, yeah, I love that. I think that's a brilliant idea.
The audio thing has something here called tape new and old. So I guess that might be a similar
you can
thing.
do panning and all that kind of stuff on it, noise amount. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but there's a picture of Brian Setzer, his rig. So he's got this old Fender Blonde Bassman that he plays his guitar through. And then on top of it, there's a stack of Space Echoes. I mean, live, I've seen him live, and he just uses one or two. But he's got all his backups all stacked up on top of it. It's a great imagery. And I think he's one of the people that are probably best known for using a Space Echo, and it's such an integral part of his sound, both of his, guitar going through the preamp of it, and then also the echoes. And he does a version of Sleepwalk that is just killer. I mean, it's really amazing.
We only had Watkins copycats back in my day. That's all we had. That's all that we could afford.
Copycat.
Was it Watkins something? I forget what the EM stood for. But yeah, the copycats and I distinctly remember my lead guitarist just being absolutely in love with his thing, and I used to just love feeding all sorts of things in and watch the tape go around. It was just great.
I know.
Just as an ancillary point, and actually I forgot to mention this when I was showing the Dimension D that I've got. I'm sure it's going to be with this tape echo as well. The original is noisy as hell.
Right.
It breathed, as did the original Dimension D. If you put it on any of the settings, particularly number 4, it would just be before you even done anything. This Clark Technic thing is absolutely mouse quiet. Yeah. Really, you push, it's mouse quiet. It's brilliant, and I would like to think that this IK Multimedia is going to be pretty good as well until you put a signal through it, and that honestly is just. Well,
but there are some things where that thing, like the chorus on the Juno 60, with that it's kind of almost a desirable aspect of it.
I know, but I'm talking about before you put an audio signal through.
Right? Yeah.
I mean, what you don't want is before you put an audio signal through, as you've got with the Juno 60, if you put headphones on and just put the chorus on, you can actually hear it all. And that's just the BBDs that are aging, because if you put new BBDs in there, they are actually a bit quieter, which I've done on my 106. Right. You can, if BBDs age, they do age.
But some of that will be that they've gone out of bias too.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean,
I had 2 106s, and one made the noise constantly, and the other one was fine. No idea.
Yeah, well, those BBDs do age, and when they're gone past their sell-by date, you obviously had one that did. I had the same thing, Ben, and they're off-the-shelf BBDs. Stuck a couple of them in, and it's not perfect because no Juno. And you're right, Robbie. It's part of the characteristic of it.
Yeah.
But what you don't want on something like the modern day version, I mean, particularly this Dimension D, I was really worried about. You put it on setting 3 or 4, which is what I use it for on synths, and it starts breathing before you even put any audio signal through it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't. It's absolutely mouse quiet. It's kind of like it's got a gate there, but it hasn't got a gate there. It's really good. And I would love to think that this IK Multimedia has got something similar, which the original didn't.
Yeah.
May not bother other people, but for me, that would be an absolute must.
I think the original Dimension stuff, so I've had, more Dimension Cs than I can remember. But I know at least with the Dimension C, they used a compounder-expounder circuit. So they have a Bucket Brigade like treble boost, and then it goes through, and then afterwards they have a treble cut. So you end up having about the same amount of treble through the circuit, but you've actually done some noise reduction by it.
Right.
And so the Dimension Cs, I haven't. It's been years and years if I've ever played a Dimension D, but the Dimension Cs were not too bad. They were pretty quiet, but some Bucket Brigade choruses, yeah, you're right. It's just my 106 is not. It's not horrible. It's not like what Ben was describing on his one, but it's still like you turn it on and you hear that.
But fortunately, these parts you can still get. Like I say, same with the Poly 6 as well. The chorus on that was always they're all noisy, but I mean there's a limit to how much noise you can accept. I think in modern day. Particularly on a door, But
then you're saying that some component introduces some noise, so then they put in other components to counteract that, at the output stage or something. Sometimes it's those processes that then give the overall sound the unique quality of that particular unit. And my point of reference to that is, surprise, surprise, the Fairlights. With the Series 1 and the Series 2s, because it was such a low frequency. When you're stretching 2 or 3 semitones either side of the root note, then you get all the aliasing comes in. So to counteract that, they bring in the dynamic filtering that rolls off those frequencies to clean it up, and it's that gives you the Fairlight sound that you don't get on anything else. So you have to be careful. So people like IK Multimedia know what they're doing when it comes to this sort of thing, but you have to be careful that you don't iron it out, those things too much. But as Simon says, if there's an element of noise that you don't want, get rid of that, but make sure that whatever it is that it does is doing it when you want it to do it, to give it the character
and leaves the character.
Exactly. And that's the thing, isn't it?
When is this thing out? When is this? I didn't realise that. I might grab that.
This is one of the things that I really like about IK Multimedia is that they announce things when they're available. They don't sort of say coming in 2 months.
Well,
mostly
that matter, let's talk about the Joe Satriani Amplitude set, which I pre-ordered in January, and it just came out in July.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. No, I stand corrected. But no, this.
But normally, yes, I like that too, where they just say, "Hey, it's available. Go ahead and go download it."
That's it. Yeah.
And I do like that.
Yeah.
One of the things as we were talking about these vintage Bucket Brigade devices is that the supply of those original Panasonic, like the MN whatever 3002, 3005. The SAD 1024 and all these chips that were used for choruses and delays, analog delays, are getting really expensive now. And I think somebody was at ASIO had brought up Cool Audio. And one of the greatest things that I think is happening right now is that they're starting to produce these things, clones. Some of them are not exactly the same, but I imagine as time goes on that they're going to get better because with these vintage chips, which, I mean, in the rest of the world, who wants these things? Nobody. Same thing with vacuum tubes. Mike Matthews of Electro-Harmonics fame and Sovtech, I mean, he started that factory in Russia for Sovtech stuff, and he started making tubes again. So, like, all of his guitarists get worried about the tube supply because we can't make them in the States anymore. Mm-hmm. But they're still being made in China and Russia, and I think only 2 factories, last I had heard.
Right.
So, at least like with these Bucket Brigades, somebody's, taking up the mantle and make them again.
Supply and demand, isn't it? Because all vintage stuff, whether it's guitar amps, whether it's keyboards, we need these parts, and they, just like the Curtis chips, they're remanufacturing them to order, and people are wanting them. So, Yeah, I mean, it's a good thing because every Juno 106 is on or anything that uses these old chips is a ticking time bomb. They won't last forever.
No.
And how sad would it be to have a great synthesizer or effects of you to have something like a Jupiter or a CS80 or something where like, I can't use it anymore because those chips don't work anymore and I can't get replacements.
Yeah, and that's what I would say about we've all been there. It's one thing owning this old stuff, it's another thing keeping it going, because it ain't cheap, it ain't easy, and it can be very frustrating. And I've had it plenty of times there where you've turned it on and it don't work, or something doesn't work for no reason at all, and you've just got to take that on the chin. That's part of owning an old bit of kit.
It's like, and it brings you back, as I always say, it's the classic car analogy. If you want a piece of classic motoring, mechanical engineering, part and parcel of it is the fact that the car will probably spend more time in your garage being fixed and being tinkered with, and then you'll get it to take it out for a few weeks a year, and that's it. Then it goes back into storage again. It's the same.
Do you know, it's
the interesting thing with that, though. Sorry. The interesting thing with that analogy is that if you had an old car and you put all new things in it, it would actually be a better car.
Yeah, but you don't want a better car.
But if you did it with a synth, it'd ruin it.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, my next door neighbour has an MG, a classic MG. I forget what exact type it is. It's a little 2-seater, and it's all original. And he pays a fortune. He doesn't do much himself. I think it's more like a pension investment. Let's buy a classic car and we take it out. It literally takes it out half a dozen times a year, and only in good weather. And then the rest of the time it's in storage. But it is completely original, and you would not want an MG with a Ford Focus engine in it, or whatever it might be. It's just not the same thing. And hats off to Behringer, who of course own Cool Audio, for producing these chips. There's clearly a demand. They can do it at a very low cost, and I think somehow somewhere Udi's going like this, knowing that the likes of these big companies are going to have to come to him to get these chips if they want to build anything that's that along those lines. So he's kind of done us all a favour there, I suppose, in some way.
I think I was up Don Larkin's last week, and I don't know much about guitars, and he had a Taylor guitar there, an electric acoustic guitar. This probably means a lot more to you, Cryss, and people that play guitars. Anyway, he said this thing was worth about $7,000. He bought it in from someone, and it was pristine. He said, except when he opened the case a couple of days before I went up there, he'd noticed a crack that appeared in the front of it.
Oh.
Yeah, and this guitar's value has gone from about $7,000 to about $2,500. He sent it away to a luthier who's done an invisible fix as invisible as it could be, but he pointed it out to me because you could see in the grain of the wood, and anyone apparently that knows what they're looking at, I mean I don't, but would notice it. So again, it's the same thing as I could turn on a Jupiter 8 or anything and it don't work, and he opens a guitar up and it's got a potential £2,000-3,000 crack in it.
Yeah. That hurts.
After the show, Simon, I need to talk to you about Don.
Okay. Right. Yeah, no worries.
Don't let me forget. It's. I mean, obviously, doing the stuff that I do with Fairlights, it's. We fit original parts, and there's very little that we put in there that is not from an original. The only thing that I think, obviously, is the SD card drives that we use. Yeah. But everything else is pretty much sourced from original parts and original components. And then there's the memory thing that we have, the 32 meg memory thing. But Peter's been experimenting. He's been putting apogee filters on a bunch of the output cards, which he says makes them sound even better, but I haven't heard those yet. But I
think certain mods to vintage stuff is very acceptable, can prolong their life, look better, work better, etc.
Yeah.
It's an individual thing. I personally,
you like
cosmetically, absolutely, as I remember it when I bought it or when I saw it first back when it came out. I don't know quite if that's like that with guitars, Cryss. I don't know, but it's a personal thing. Whereas other people might say, well, I don't want that display in it. I want an OLED display in my S6000 or whatever. You know, it's a personal thing. But the point being is that we've all now got our little bit of vintage kit, or there's a lot of people that do have. And to keep these things going now, we need a supply of vintage parts made on a modern day basis.
It's like with the 2X down here, I've got the HXC SD card drive in there, which is brilliant because it's quick and it's reliable. Well, I say quick, you know, the bus speed's exactly the same as the floppies, but it's reliable. I can store everything on there. It's convenient and perfect, and it doesn't generate any noise or any extra heat. But do you know what? I look at it sometimes and I think, you know, I want two bloody great 8-inch floppies in there, to the point where I've actually got.
No, you don't.
No, I know I don't. I know I don't, but I do, and I've actually got 3 floppies in the garage that have come out of Series 3s, and I think one of them's pretty much dead anyway. I'm actually going to take that and just put it in there. It will serve no purpose other than visual. It will just make it look almost. But I would still, if I had the choice, I would still, like you, Simon, I want everything as original and as I remember it from back in the day.
I think certain things like that, yes. I mean, again, I know we're harping on a bit. I mean, I particularly like the cathode, the green screens, the old green screens. Other people want to put colour screens on them. And listen, the colour screens will last a lot longer, but that's my choice. I like it looking original. But I'm not saying one is better than the other. With regards to your floppies, Rob, good luck. Good luck with that. I mean, my 2 did work, and I'm afraid to try them again just in case they don't work again. But no, it's a labour of love. But if that's your thing, then be it.
There are certain aspects of synthesizer technology or any technology that they are just no longer viable, and you just have to look for alternatives. And in the case of old disk drives, whether they're 8-inch floppy drive, there are so many just perfectly decent alternatives. I mean, I've now fitted SCSI to SD on so many different things, and will continue to do so. And once I can get my Emacs to you, we're going to do that as well. And
once I can get my S5000 to you,
yes, indeed, we'll do a swap. But yeah, absolutely, it's some of these things just have to be done to keep the instrument going. But yeah, there is that kind of glassy-eyed nostalgia that when you look at something, you just want it to look like you remember. Nick Rhodes using it on top of the Pops, or Chris Lowe. Whatever,
Yeah, if you're from that era.
Yeah.
How does that work with guitars, Cryss? I mean, do you keep your guitars all 100% original, or do you change pickups, and what do you do?
I probably lean a little more on making it work for me. Now, if I had I only have a couple of vintage guitars, but they're not expensive, so that doesn't matter. But things that can be, like I've done a lot of pedal repair, and so that'd be one area where making a simple change makes something a lot better. So like old fuzz pedals or whatever, usually the bypass on them is terrible. You run your guitar through that even in bypass, and it just kills your treble. So true bypassing it, putting a better modern foot switch in there is something that I found for that most of the time increases the value. And then I have the original switch and the original parts in a bag with it. Like, you get all the original stuff, whatever I've taken out or changed, you get all the original stuff, can be put back. But something like guitars, when you start making modifications, like you route something out for a different pickup, or you've changed pickups like on a vintage Fender or something, like that gets really expensive. That usually those are not good ideas to do.
Yeah.
So I mean, as far as my modern guitars, like there's hardly anything that I haven't changed on these. I'm changing pickups, and my Strats are all custom wired to what I want it, and I just I don't have to take anybody to do that. I can do that. So that's been part of my fun. And actually, one of the things I appreciated about working with synthesizers, like, I'm not screwing with anything anymore. Like, I don't have to change anything on this. I just program it. Like, I'm not, man, I'm going to change this. I'm going to change this capacitor out, or I'm going to get this different pickup for it, or I'm going to adjust this. Like, I'm kind of glad after all these years to be able to just sit and play and program and not be fussing about how custom it is.
Yeah. I think with Guitar World, that's more of an acceptable practice, isn't it? To customize a guitar either through the choice of the pickups or the circuitry or the strings. It's never been sacrilege to do that to a guitar. Everyone goes out and buys a guitar. Right, I want this. Whereas with a synthesizer, I don't know. That's just whether because it's less easy to do.
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be as much you can do for it. And just thinking about like how style and identity come into play. I mean, think about how in the 60s people were decorating they're just painting their guitars. McCartney's Ricky or George Harrison's Rocky guitar, Strat, and where they were doing their own thing to it. Jimmy Page heavily modified his number 1 and number 2 Les Pauls. He shaved down the necks. He added coil taps on to a radically, valuable guitar, mind you. But I don't think. I mean, what are you going to do to a synthesizer to really customize it that much? Not a whole lot.
Well, Benny Anderson painted his Mini Moog white. I think that's about it, isn't it? Really?
Yeah. There's not.
Talking about guitar heroes, I'll be quick. My guitar hero, Mick Ronson, I didn't realise that his Les Paul was black, and he sanded the front of it off to make it look lighter. Sort of I didn't know that until you actually look at the edges of his guitar, and sure enough, it's black. Yeah. How many times have I seen that? Never noticed that.
I might be wrong here, but Clapton's Strat. Didn't he?
Yes, Blackie.
Didn't he shape it to a V, the back of the fretboard to a V shape, and then now, of course, you can buy the custom Strat, which has that out of the factory. But was that a thing that he did?
So you're close. So the 50s Fenders for a certain amount of time had a very V-shaped neck, and so like my Telly is a 52 reissue, and the neck that I have on it right now is very V-shaped. And Clapton liked that. He liked 50 Strats, so both Blackie and Brownie, his like 2 famous Stratocasters that he started playing early 70s or basically after the Cream era, where actually he took multiple. I think with Blackie he took like 3 different identical black Strats, and he's like, I like the neck shape on this one, I like the way the pickups sound on this one, and he just put the parts together into one guitar that was the best out of all 3 of them. And I don't know of him shaping the neck at all. Jimmy Page and a lot of other guys would shave down their late 50s Gibson necks, but I don't recall if Clapton did anything beyond what a 50s V-shaped neck would be.
Yeah, so he just kind of took his preference of parts. And I guess that's just so much more acceptable in the guitar world. Guitars are it feels like a very personal thing, doesn't it?
I think go ahead.
I just find it incredible that people like Brian May and the story of
Little
Red actually made that. His old man made that out of was it something to do with a fireplace or something?
500-year-old mahogany from their mantelpiece. Yeah, and the only thing that he didn't
never
end
last,
up
though, that thing.
Brian who?
Yeah, I mean the only thing that he didn't make up on it is that they had tried making pickups and they weren't working well or weren't sounding good, and they ended up buying some Burns pickups for it, and they just never got back to doing it again. But yeah, like the parts of the whammy bar and the vibrato assembly are from like a bicycle, like some of the springs in there and stuff. It's just absolutely amazing.
Yeah,
and it's such an iconic sound.
I mean, again, I'm not a guitarist, but I watched a thing on YouTube with his guitar manager, and he was telling all these stories about they've had 3 or 4 different luthiers try and make replicas of this thing, and although they look good, they just sound nothing like his one that his old man made. And you think, Christ, did it in his spare time, albeit it took about 5 years to do.
But of course, now you can just go and buy IK Multimedia's package that models everything. He models the circuitry on the guitar and his amp configurations, and sounds incredibly good. Yeah, it's,
I had one of the not the high end like $3,000 clones, but I had one of his own company's version of his guitar. I didn't have the red. I had the clear coated one. It was really a beautiful guitar, and it was interesting to play it with his setup and his electronics in it. And it definitely had its things. It was a little bit cumbersome to use because of the electronics, but if you were looking for his sound, I mean, there's more components to it. The AC30s are really a big deal, and even him using a coin.
He uses a shilling coin, which used to be a 10p bit, and if you look on the top of his guitar, he's got them all stuck, all these shilling coins in case he drops them.
One is inlaid into the headstock now.
Oh, right,
yeah, because he uses them as plectrums. That's right, isn't it?
That's how he gets that.
Yeah, so it's.
Back in the day, when I used to work in retail, we used to get Bruce Foxton come in, and a friend of mine was so into the jam, and Bruce Foxton would come in literally for this particular plectrum that we never had in stock. Just this one plectrum, wouldn't use it, because he played his bass with a plectrum.
Yeah, he was a picky, wasn't he?
Yeah, it's incredible. Styles and guitarists.
I remember when I was I don't know, 6-7 years old and heavily into the Beatles. I just desperately wanted a Hofner violin bass. And I went to my friend and I said, how hard can it be to build a guitar? And we just looked at it. Oh, yeah, it is quite hard. But I remember seeing a JD bass. You remember Mark King, level 42.
Oh, yeah.
So very early on, maybe the first kind of half of the 80s, he had this big custom-made JD Mark King bass with the active circuitry, and it looked, it was this big fat thing. It was always held up here, and he was doing this. And I saw one for sale in the local music shop, and it was stupid money. I mean, it really was. And I went in and I said, I'd love to buy that because I'm a huge Mark King fan, and I would just love to play an instrument and sound like Mark King. And he said, you won't, because Mark's JD is made by JD for Mark, and these are just copies, like Fender do signature versions of their guitars. They're as close as they can get it, but they're not quite the same thing. And this is the thing with guitars, they are very customizable and very unique to the individual player, whether it's bought like that or whether it's fashioned for them, or whether they like Cryss laboriously take time to do all of that kind of stuff themselves. But you just don't get that with synthesizers, because it's just, I guess it's a different type of technology. I mean, I've heard of people swapping out DACs to improve audio quality, or as my colleague Peter does, putting apogee filters in place of the factory fitted Fairlight, and what was the other at the beginning of the T? I never remember the names of the filters they put on the back of the Series 3s. Is it Tyco? Something like that. I don't know. Yeah, there was two factory fitted types, and then Peter comes along with the apogees, which are even better, and puts those on. But there's very little kind of customization other than paint jobs.
Well, yeah, one that Askew had mentioned was the like you've seen the custom Junos, like the old 106s. I think place in Tennessee, is it Synth Spa or something like that, redoes. I mean, they'll take care of your chips for you, but then if you want it totally custom, you come back with I saw one of the white ones at Perfect Circuit, and it was pretty interesting looking.
Yeah.
But they'll do all those kind of custom things. But I mean, that's a Juno 106, which is going up in value, but nobody's doing that with their Jupiter.
Yeah, of course, they are rocketing up in value.
Yeah. But there's the whole circuit bending scene, which you don't seem to see so much of nowadays. But there was that thing where you take a synthesizer and you open it up and you start wiring things together that were never meant to be wired together, to come up with stuff that never really kind of turned me on, but it made it unique for someone to have a synthesizer that had a little switch on the side that made it like the SH101 mod, the Nova mod, which Behringer built in as a standard thing. That was So I guess maybe I'm kind of disproving my own argument, because there actually is things like Kenton. I mean, look at all the different modifications that Kenton have made for various synthesizers.
Yeah, but that's the divide of useful modifications.
Yeah.
I think, there's different types of modifications. There's cosmetic stuff where I'm personally a little bit pedantic on. Electronical, which keep the thing going. I mean, like, yes, you mentioned the SCSI to SD cards. We're sticking in all the samplers because the floppy disks are dying.
Yeah.
That's not original, but it's if you want to keep the thing going, okay. Or
doesn't detract from the sound.
If you want to butcher the thing and circuit bend it, and I think that is just desecration of a machine. Or if you want to have it professionally repainted, it's entirely there's one that keeps it going. That's a completely separate divide to getting a different look to the machine, which is personal taste. So
I saw something not long ago where somebody had taken an emulator 2 and the keyboard had gone, but they took all the internals and they made a 19-inch rack mount module from an emulator 2.
Yeah,
I thought it was just, I mean, all right, so it's different, but it's still an emulator 2, and it's doing everything an emulator 2 could do. But they've just fashioned it into this rack mount thing, and I've seen similar things where the keyboard is they've been given a synthesizer, the keyboard's had a 9-inch nails job done on it, and so they just take the internals and put it under a new panel and make it a rack mount or a desktop or something like that, and that's quite nice. But that's more like keeping something alive. That's like a $6 million man job, keeping the thing alive rather than trashing the whole thing.
The question has been asked about the Moog 1 on lots of forums. Are they going to make a rack-mounted version of the Moog 1?
Really?
Yeah.
That would have to be huge.
Unit,
yeah.
Massive. Because you'd have to have both those, the button panels on top of each other. It's the only way you could do it.
And then I mean, the fact that you've got a keyboard, an actual keyboard mechanism in there, gives you a bit more space for ventilation and heat distribution, which we know it's already, bad.
Well, there must be a reason why they haven't done it, and I would imagine, apart from the tooling and logistic nightmare of making a 50U rack version, because it would be, as Cryss said, it would be enormous.
It would be like a 6 Lavia tower, wouldn't it?
Oh, yeah.
It would be one of the sections of Tonto. It would just be the Moog 1.
Yeah.
It would just be, Tonto Mark
the question has been asked, Next thing they'll want is a rack mount version of a CS80, which will be about 10. That would be 10 foot deep.
It's kind of been done with the Deckard, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. But I was just thinking, like, everybody loves desktop versions of things. Like, I think like a desktop version of the Moog 1, like that would just be a desk.
It
would be a desk.
It'd just be a desk. You could put 4 things on it and you'd be done.
That's exactly what John Bowen's done with the Solaris, a desktop version of the Solaris. All he's done is literally taken the keys off of it and put it in a box.
Well, here's a little known fact. Before Fairlight took off with the CMI, they were trying to get some money in, and so they did some work for Remington Business Machines, who were a competitor of IBM at the time. And they built a computer that was essentially a Fairlight CMI into a desk. So like an office desk, there's normally like a desk, and then like on the right hand side there's like 2 or 3 small drawers. In there was essentially a Fairlight. It was the same kind of computer, it was 6809 processor or 6800 processors, and a monitor which was a Fairlight shrouded monitor. And they were sold as business machines. And with the Fairlight you can actually have, is it Laser Writer? The application. So it's a word processing application that works on a Fairlight, and that's what they were. They were just like. So I would love someone to find one of those and then actually convert. Put the right cards in, and have that as a Fairlight desk. That would be, and then spray it. That kind of hospital beige. That would be fantastic.
Only imagine the weight of the thing. Oh God,
it'd be brilliant. I'd love to find. That would be like a pet project. I'd give up my day job to do that. That's fantastic. Yeah. Should we do one more thing? Because we promised that we would.
I'll tell you what, fair play to the people that are watching, and it's probably me that's kept everyone on, because I've been rambling on, but we got the same amount of viewers, give or take, and thanks for listening, predominantly to me, for waffling on about a whole load of stuff that wasn't part of the show, but I apologise if I've kept you all up.
Not anyway. At all. Well, you know, they can go, it's a free world, most of it is. So this is, we should do this because he's a friend of the show. So Marc Barnes has released volume 5 of his custom presets for the core Wavestate.
Yeah.
Are these the final ones? I think, didn't he say with...
Yeah, I think he said he was stopping after 5.
Yeah, I mean, there's 5 banks there. 20 production-ready performances and 80 custom programs covering a variety of different timbres, covering pads, electric piano, strings, brass, leads. I'm kind of like loath to play a demonstration, but you can go and check out Angel Star Scotland is the YouTube channel. Go and get a demonstration of that. And if you have a Wavestate, I think Marc has been doing some incredible work. I mean, I think he's like really taken to it like a duck to water. When he got it, it was just like bang, got it, and started.
And let's be honest, it hasn't been out that long.
No,
he's really cracked on and come out with some terrific stuff.
5 volumes of quality patches. Yeah. Absolutely. No, that's really good. Angel Star Scotland, I think, let me just check the website, is Marc Barnes Sounds. So let me just bring that up for everyone so you can see marcbarnessounds.com. And look, I mean, £7.69 for each. I mean, I know he does a bundle for all of those, the 5 volumes. But yeah, crikey, £7.69. That's no brainer, isn't it? It's just got to do it. So yeah, there you go. Marc Barnes is volume 5 of his Wavestate stuff. I really want to try that. Did you get one of those, Simon?
No, I didn't. I had all intentions to do it because he got one. Jamie's got one.
Right.
And I think value for money, it's terrific. But I did speak to Marc about it on how intuitive it was, and to be fair, and again, fair play to Marc, it takes a little bit of getting used to the way the thing works, as did the original Wavestation. That wasn't a turn on and I understand that straight away type of thing. So no, I don't have one. I got the other thing. Are we allowed to mention? No, well, we're not. The other thing that's about the same sort of size and made by a British company, and
Argonate.
Oh, yes. Which is similar money, and it's great. I mean, I like that. So I got that, and the problem is I don't have much space left, Rob. So.
No, true. No, I'm waiting for the Argonate X.
That's the 61 key one.
That's the 61, because I don't really... I mean, small keyboards... with something like that, it deserves a 61-note keyboard.
Do you know my only gripe about it? And it's just a silly thing that I think Modal, hopefully they will sort out, is that the SysX on it is one sound at a time. You can't dump. But so they came out with version 2 software. Mm-hmm. They've updated their editor, which is great. Yes. They've come out with a whole bank of new sounds, but you've got to load it in one at a time. Why? Why can't you just do a systems exclusive dump and dump the whole lot?
Yeah,
that's odd. Just can't get my head around that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Modal have just done a whole bunch of updates, haven't they? To not only that, but Sculpt and Cryss Synth 2 have all just recently got firmware updates with new functionality. As you say, they've updated the app. I think that's something I'm hoping that they can. I don't know why they did that, but it seems odd.
Maybe it's something that they will do. And the fact that they're in England we don't have that many synth manufacturers. No. Modal have really ridden the wave of bad recession, a tough market to compete with. They started at the very, very top end. I have to say, they really have come out with some good products, but they've been, I think, grossly overpriced. They really are expensive
for the big stuff. Yeah,
for the big stuff. Yeah, and I think to take the transition to come down from making high-end stuff to what effectively are Airfix kits, but good little synthesizers, and then to come out with the Argon 8, because the Argon 8 is really good.
Yeah, I love that. Is just a brilliant little thing. Yeah. It's so capable. I'm just the only because I do like my chords. The only thing I don't like about that is it's 4-note polyphonic. And then of course the other one is that, which is again a cracking little noodling device.
Yeah.
And some very clever stuff in it, because that's wavetable, and I like that, and the Argon 8 kind of just sits in the middle there, gives you that.
There's a lot of 002 in the Argon 8.
Yeah.
I mean, if you've got a 002 and you've got an Argon 8, it's going to be like water off a duck's back. And I think it's a bit unfair to say it's a poor man's 002, because it's not. It's a really good little synth. And I'll tell you what, the build quality, Philip and the guys at Modal really want a pat on the back.
Yeah.
Because one thing I did ask Marc Barnes, I said, what's the build quality like of the little Wavestate? And he said it's plastic, and whereas the Modal, for me. Again, getting back to things like the C15, the build quality was just terrific.
Yeah.
The Moog 1, the build quality is terrific.
Yeah.
It's just nicer, isn't it, to have something that you have in your hands and it feels nice. The encoders feel nice. The keyboard feels nice.
Yeah.
The screen, you can see the screen at all angles. Things like that. I mean, Dave Smith made some terrible mistakes with his early stuff. The encoders didn't stop. You just wind them round and they would just go round and round and round. The early displays, you couldn't see the early Prophet 08s at certain angles. They were shocking.
Yeah.
So, I mean, fair play to them.
It's an oft overlooked aspect. I think we get stuck in this thing where, synthesizer, first and foremost, should sound amazing. But also that build quality, the stuff that really doesn't affect the sound so much, but is really important, and that having something that's solid, that just works, and maybe you don't think about it because it's that good that it just kind of sits there in the background doing its thing without you worrying, and it's something that obviously nowadays in our mass-produced world where things like the Wavestate, it would have been better had it been at that metal construction, but because I don't buy new synths a lot, I tend to buy old ones. I'm very spoilt for for build quality in a lot of these things. It's just impeccable.
I mean, you're lucky. I mean, go back to the joke you said earlier on with Ben, the JD800, what an absolute beautiful sounding synthesizer, and the most stupid thing that Roland did with the glue.
Yeah.
And the problem with that is it's a little bit fiddly to get the glue out, but what the glue does is inside the keyboard there is a paper thin contact strip, and the glue gets on that, and it literally, once you pull that paper that strip up, the keyboard is dead. You cannot repair them. You cannot get them anymore. The only thing you can do is, I believe, a D10 or is it a D20 keyboard has exactly the same. Other than that, you've got a desktop JD800, and you'd think, why? Yeah. Why did they do that?
Yeah, or even the 106 chips being dipped in that material. Which,
that's right. Kills the VCOs, or DCOs rather.
That's not an easy thing to fix on them, because that takes a lot of work to get that stuff off, and then even just to solder one of those voice cards and take it out. I mean, I did a lot of work on my Juno, but that's one thing that when I had bought it, I'm not messing with that. I'm getting one that's already had the voice cards redone, and so I did. Yeah, because what a mess.
Yeah.
And I think this brings back to why we want something that we can put our hands on and say, well, that's a good build, because we want it to last.
Yeah.
We don't want the thing to break down in 2-3 years' time.
Yeah. And it's the one thing that always strikes me about Fairlights is the build quality. I mean,
Rob, 60 grand. You don't want it made of plastic.
Exactly. But how many pieces of equipment, whether they're synthesizers or guitars, cost stupid amounts of money, but are pretty badly designed and badly built? I mean, when you look at the Fairlight and all that metal work, I mean, you're the one that you've got there, the one that I restored. When I opened that up for the first time, I was expecting the worst, and what I got was literally factory fresh inside, because it's so well built that it could withstand a nuclear war pretty much. And as far as the mainframe was concerned, there was nothing to do apart from just replace a few faulty cards, and that was it. And that's all down to Alan Galt's brilliant, design and manufacturing. He handmade every single one of those machines, and it shows. But
I would say the same about the Moog One. Not again. In 35 years, there will be most of them will still be working. The build quality of it. Yes, it's got its quirks. It groans and creaks and stuff like that, but the actual build quality and the wood they've used and the key bed and everything, everything is really nicely done. So
and that's one of the thoughts that I had about it when I got it, because I've gone through so much gear in my life. I just I can't afford to keep all of it around, so I have to sell and then to buy new stuff. But the Moog One was one of those things that when I was looking into it, when they had announced it, like, man, this is a lifetime synthesizer here, and with them updating the operating system and keeping adding stuff to it, and they're working some of the bugs out of it for sure. But I mean, you're absolutely right about the feel. And sometimes I want to, the key bed is nice, it's that semi-weighted. And I want to use this as a controller for other stuff that I'm using, but I start feeling bad.
It's too expensive.
I don't want to turn this whole thing on just to control even something great like Omnisphere.
It is. And I guess now we're all thinking, well, components must be less, manufacturing must be cheaper to do than it was back in the 80s. So why isn't this stuff built? There's no reason why it shouldn't be built to last. I'm not saying because the Wavestate is built plastic it's not going to last. I reckon if you open the Wavestate up, there ain't a lot in it to go wrong.
There's a Raspberry Pi board and a few switches.
Right. Yeah. And in some cases, Rob, I'd rather have that than a CPU board that I'm absolutely petrified to turn on and a old bit of sequential circuit stuff. I love sequential circuit stuff, but I absolutely... the reliability of it's not impossible. It really is.
Yeah. No, I absolutely agree. We've gone on a bit, gents, but hey, it's been fun. Yes, indeed. So, I think we should start wrapping things up because I need a wee. So
they'll never have me on again, folks, because I've made it an epic show.
No, that's exactly why we'll have you on
forever. But I've enjoyed it. It's been really good.
Good stuff. So, Cryss, what have you got lined up for the coming week? Anything fun and interesting?
No.
Okay,
shooting
right.
More demos. Shooting more demos.
Yay.
I had a meeting yesterday with my partner, and we're working stuff out for the website and loading how all that's going to work. So I'm excited. It's getting closer, but a lot of unfun stuff happening for the next few weeks. But I have gotten some new software to play with, though, so we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, I'm sure you can squeeze that in between the dull stuff. Ben, have you got anything interesting lined up for this week?
I'm going to make sure that all the wiring that I've done over this weekend works, and then once I do, I'm going to install Cryss's sound set for the Prophet 6, because I really can't wait to hear that, and it's kind of been my motivation to get everything working again, because I want to see what they're like. So I'm really looking forward to that, and I'll let you know. I'll give you
all right, great.
Next week.
Excellent.
Well, that's good to hear, because I had sent it over to you and I'm like, oh man, maybe he doesn't like it. Like, I haven't heard anything back.
Oh no, I couldn't load it in. I didn't even have a USB lead going into it. But I've sorted it now. I think I'm ready. Hopefully.
Excellent stuff. Simon, how about you? Have you got anything fun coming up in the coming weeks?
Probably. I'm going to send George Hearn another email.
All right.
I've bought quite a few bits of Heaviosity software. Yeah, I like their stuff. But I'm waiting for them to do another sale because they've got a thing called Dangerous. It's orchestral drums. It's an amazing bit of software, but it's quite expensive. But other than that, I should just do my usual thing and keep watching YouTube and watch your show next week. So thanks for having me on.
You will be on Jamie's show next week, right?
Is it next? I think I am. Yeah. So
cool.
So everybody check that out.
Definitely. Yeah. Geosynths.
Yeah, definitely.
Go for that one.
And his patches are coming out as well next week for the Moog One. He's got Volume 2 coming out as well. Oh yes,
he's been plugging that.
Which I will get. I mean, he's done a great job on that.
There's some nice sounds on there.
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah.
Cool stuff. Well, I've got one more week at the day job, and then I've got 2 weeks off where I'm supposed to be going back home to Italy, but that's just all gone by the wayside because of pandemic-y stuff. So my wife asked me what I wanted for my birthday because it's my birthday a week on Wednesday, and I really didn't know, and so I thought, well, let's try and persuade her to get me something synth related, but I don't want to spend too much money because then that leaves, because basically I'm buying my own birthday present, but it's just coming from her, so I want to keep the money in my account so in case something does come along that is nice, I can go and buy. So I said, I'll tell you what, because I was looking at a Behringer TD3 because I'd like a 303. But then I said, tell you what, get me the NTS1, the Korg NTS1, because every time I see that thing, it just blows me away in terms of its capability. And the fact that it comes in a kit form, which is always a nice thing to be able to say, I built that, even though it is all snapped together and not soldering or anything like that. So I'm really looking forward to getting hold of that and playing around, sticking all my effects-free synthesizers through that and seeing how that plays, and getting some of these models, and I know Tim Shoebridge has done some stuff that is quite interesting, because the fact that you can load these models into the mini logs and the pro logs, but also the NTS one is quite interesting. So
we should mention also what you were saying, just reminding me about that about buying synthesizers. That listen, Reverb's prices are going up, so if you need to talk to your spouse or your partner about buying synthesizers now, make sure you mention that fact.
Yeah, get it now before it goes up. Absolutely.
She can't get you a T-shirt, Rob, because I think you've got every. Yeah, I mean, I can't think of one that you haven't got really.
I need to get.
Have you got a Moog one?
No, but I don't own a Moog synthesizer. I only buy T-shirts for the synthesizers that I own.
Okay, right.
So I need. I now need a Korg Z1 and an SY22. Thank you.
Yeah.
And a CS6X. I need to get some of those, and luckily Jeff.
Oh, you need a CX5M one. That'd be really cool.
I think Jeff does one. I think because Jeff, these are all Jeff Toman's work, and Jeff went kind of offline for a couple of months, but is now back on eBay. So Custom Synth on eBay, and you can get these T-shirts. They're like £12.50. They're brilliant. They're good quality shirts and well printed. I do need to get a few more of those sorted. For the winter, I think, because these black shirts get quite hot during these hot summer days. Anyway, so there you go. That's episode 16. That's a wrap. Thanks ever so much for everyone in the chat room. Lots of great participation in there as always. Thanks for staying for 2 hours and 52 minutes and counting.
Wow.
Brilliant. We will be back. Now, I did say that I might not be here next Sunday, but it turns out that we're having a little kind of socially distanced birthday gathering on the Saturday. So hopefully Sunday I will be sober enough from the day before.
By then.
Yeah, and then, because it's weird, isn't it? I had my sister over yesterday because she's 40 in August and I'm 50 in a couple of weeks. And so it's kind of milestone birthdays. And so she came over. Well, she came down from Manchester. And it was lovely to see people, but even though they have to kind of sit 2 meters away, and it's just, but there you go. Got to make the most of it. So anyway, stay safe.
What about one Fairlight length away?
Yeah. So you just put a Fairlight between, and you should be fine. Yeah, absolutely. Stay safe, stay healthy. Thanks ever so much for your support. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell, whatever. Come and join us on Facebook, ProSynth Network. All the links are below in the comments section down there. And we will see you same time, same place next week. I don't know if we'll have a guest. I think we're working on something. But if not, the three of us will just talk bollocks for another couple of hours or so, just like we normally do. So thanks ever so much for watching. Take the greatest of care, and we'll see you all soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.